Di's wonderful introduction of our play this evening and this afternoon.
Hello, everyone. When I was preparing this talk about Ibsen, I suddenly remembered that my godfather, Philip Sargent Florence, who was born at the end of the 19th century, went to university in Freiburg in southern Germany. And he said that on any night of the week in the small market town of Freiburg, which I have now visited, you could see an opera or a Shakespeare play, and they were different every night. Can you imagine the wealth of artistic endeavor and cultural life that characterized Germany at that point? That's 1911. And so it made me think of Henrik Ibsen, who lived for a long time in Germany, and many of his plays were produced there. He's thought of as a Norwegian writer. In fact, he didn't write in Norwegian, but in a form of Danish. And you expect his plays to be absolutely pullulating with trolls and funny spirits arising from fjords. But he spent much of his life in Germany and in Italy. And so he is a great European, not at all really nationalistic. But he was born in 1828 into a very prosperous merchant family. But his father died when he was young, died at sea. And his mother married again. And a catastrophe occurred at about the age of 8 when his stepfather and therefore the whole family lost their money. And so he knew something of both prosperity and poverty. And I think that kind of contrast of experience, it really helps the humanity of his plays. He became a pharmacist, first of all, very precise job that has to be, but he only lasted for 2 years. But during that time, he had an illegitimate son, and this is interesting. He never met the baby or saw the baby or met the son, but he paid maintenance for that son for the whole of his childhood, which says something about the man, I think. Now, he joined, after leaving pharmacy, he joined a theatre in Steigen, which on the edge of a fjord or water anyway. And in this small town, there was a theatre. It makes one think of Freiburg, in fact. So maybe Norway, in that sense, was also there was quite a cultural life there. And he started off as a stagehand, and then he finally ran it. And he ran this theatre for about 20 years. This makes me think that the material he's got for Enemy of the People means that if you run a theatre for 20 years, you are saturated with petty bureaucracy and with the worthies of the town thinking that they should have a say in what the theatre's doing and how the theatre is financed. And you have to get to know all the worthy burghers of a town. And it seems to me that this is where he's collected much of his material. He must have seen a lot of double dealing and trickery and hypocrisy in his life. And his plays, I think, are so incredible because they really show you, like Brecht's plays really, because very different kinds of plays, but that here was a man of the theatre. He knows how the theatre works, and he's absolutely brilliant at knowing how the stage should work. I had a 6-week workshop on Ibsen some years ago in my London workshop. We met every Sunday and looked at Ibsen's scenes from Ibsen's plays. And it was quite incredible when we set up in our rehearsal room this scene that he described in such detail, because his feeling for space and for the depth of the stage and for the drama of the different spaces on the stage was incredible, like a man who spent 20 years putting on plays in a theatre. He did write a few early plays, sort of vaguely 19th century type versed plays, which didn't get anywhere really. But he finally began to have some success. And in 1864, he left Norway and he went to live in Sorrento, which overlooks the Bay of Naples. And his inland is protected by very deep gorges, very beautiful town. And it seems to me this was sort of Norway on acid, really, you know, because you had in Sorrento the beauty of the bay and the sea and so on. You didn't have the winters. And you had the deep gorges, but you didn't have the trolls and the depression and the drinking. He went in 1868 to Dresden, which was a city of enormous culture and absolute artistic splendor, which the British succeeded in completely destroying when it was only full of art galleries and mainly refugees towards the end of the war, one of our great war crimes. In 1891, he opened Hedda Gabler in Munich. So he was enjoying the cultural life of Germany. He was by then 63 years old, and he returned to Norway for the last 15 years of his life. He saw a lot of poverty and a lot of desperation in Norway, where mass emigration to the USA started in 1825. And he's imbued in all his writing with an understanding of economic circumstance, the terrible pressure of money and the lack of money and owing money and not having any money brings. And making money, of course, and what makes people forget their moral stance if they're going to lose money. He had a feeling for emancipation. In Norway, the nobility were abolished in his youth, and there was a radical labor movement, and he must have been affected by that. He had great feeling for emancipation and for the emancipation of women. He's way before his time in understanding how profit works, how capital works on a society, and how it works on women. I think he had a complete contempt for small town politics, although he, even in his worst characters, there's always a grain of humanity which makes one feel a certain kind of tragic loss, in that people are so subsumed by their economic circumstances. Nobody's ever a complete hero or a villain. He's a great favourite of James Joyce and Freud. James Joyce wrote him a letter of admiration when he was only 18, and to his enormous pleasure, Ibsen answered it. And Joyce wrote back to him and said, "I'm an 18-year-old Irishman, and I will treasure the fact that you replied to me all my life." He was married at the age of 30 in 1858, and friends saw this marriage as a tragedy, finding as he did that he did not love the woman he married. And they were indeed both completely unsuited to each other. And he seemed to then become obsessed with a sort of an almost demonic pursuit of literary fame. He sent his wife and child home to Norway so that he could work abroad in peace. And he always interests me very much because he has such a really extraordinary appearance for such a sensitive and brilliant artist, with this sort of great mass of facial hair that he wears. And I looked up why men seem to want to sometimes sport a mass of hair all over their face. And I read that the psychoanalyst thinks that a man probably fantasizes that it gives him a sort of gruff manliness. And it also masks emotion, which makes me think that Ibsen was a deeply emotional and vulnerable person underneath that outer persona. And that this great mass of facial hair also gives people an appearance of maturity when they maybe feel they don't quite have it, and of moral courage, which they might feel that they don't have. Freud, you see, who was a great admirer of Ibsen, said that poets and dramatists discovered the subconscious way before people like we did. To quote him, in their knowledge of the mind, they're far ahead of us, everyday people. I love the way Freud calls himself an everyday person. One of his greatest friends said of him, he who brilliantly condemns the cravenness of the age, was himself a craven and vacillating weakling. I think that's so incredible to think of Ibsen writing away about the cravenness of this town in Enemy of the People, and knowing beneath all that gruff manliness that he demonstrated, knowing the terrible vulnerability of the unmarried girl who bore his child, the horrible hypocrisy of the people in small town Steigen, and the devastation of a loveless marriage. And I feel all that is brilliantly demonstrated in his work, and that he's really a towering figure of the 19th century. And I'm especially grateful to Ibsen that he gave women such fantastic and complex roles, which are completely, like this play you're reading tonight, relevant to the time that we're living in. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. And we've got even more women reading in this version that we're going to be reading tonight. We've swapped the genders.
They're playing craven weaklings on the whole.
That's right. So we've evened the balance now.
Okay. Good night.
Thanks so much, everyone.
I'll listen to it later. Bye.
Bye. All right. Hello, everyone. So whoever is audience, I'm going to ask audience to turn off your cameras and your audio. I might have already turned some of you off. And before we start, I think we'll quickly introduce ourselves, our characters, so that we know who we are, because some actors are meeting each other for the first time tonight. We've got actors from UK, from Toronto, and let's work through quickly and just introduce who we are. So maybe we'll start with you, Jessie, as Catherine.
Hello, I'm Jessica Sherman. I'm playing Catherine Stockmann.
Brilliant. And we'll move to Peter.
Hello, everyone. I'm Peter Clements. I am playing Dr. Stockmann.
Fab. Carly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carly Street, and I'm reading the role of Peter Stockmann, who is the brother of Dr. Stockmann, but we are making her a woman, and her name is now Peter Stockmann.
Amazing. David Hargeaves.
Hello, I'm playing Aslex, who is the printer for a small town, factotum.
Perfect. David Reale.
Hi there, I'm David Reale. I'm playing Hovstad, who is the editor of the local paper.
And Alex Paxton.
Hi, I'm Alex Paxton-Beesley, and I'm playing Billing, who is a reporter and sub-editor for the paper.
Perfect. I'm Anna Tierney, and I'm playing Petra, who's the eldest daughter of Catherine and Dr. Stockmann. And then we have Matthew Wernham.
Hello, I'll play Captain Horster.
Perfect. And Gabriel.
Hello, I'm playing Citizen 5.
And David Tompa.
I'm playing Morton Kill. He's a tanner, and he's Catherine Stockmann's father, adopted father.
And Kate Ross-Lecky.
Hi, I'm Kate Ross-Lecky. I am reading Vic, Citizen 1, and I'll be reading the stage directions.
Thank you. We've got a few people who are off screen right now. So we've got the two children, Isla and Morton, who are played by Lizzie Rose Clarke and Eleanor McGloughlin. There they are. So they're the two, or you can introduce yourselves. Let me talk for you.
We are the children.
We're the children.
The children of Dr. Stockmann and Catherine.
And
then,
also, I play Citizen 2.
And I am Citizen 4.
marvelous. Ellie Ellwand, hello.
Hi, my name's Ellie Ellwand. I'm playing Citizen 3 and Drunken Man.
Perfect. And who else am I missing who might not be on screen right now? Is that everyone? I think that's all of us, isn't it? All right. Without further ado, so we're going to read there's a play in 5 acts. We're going to read acts 1 to 3 and then take a quick 5-minute break. And then finish the last 2 acts. It should run at under 2 hours, just for audiences so that you know. And yeah, I think let's start.
An Enemy of the People, Act 1. Dr. Stockmann's sitting room. It is evening. The room is plainly but neatly appointed and furnished. In the right-hand wall are 2 doors. The farther leads out to the hall, the nearer to the doctor's study. In the left-hand wall, opposite the door leading to the hall, is a door leading to the other rooms occupied by the family. At the back of the room, an open door leads to the dining room. Billing is seen sitting at the dining table. She has a napkin tucked under her chin, and Mrs. Stockmann is standing by the table, handing her a plate full of roast beef. The other places at the table are empty, and the table somewhat in disorder, evidently a meal having recently been finished.
You see, if you come an hour late, you have to put up with cold meat. My husband makes such a point of having his meals punctually.
It doesn't affect me a bit. Indeed, I almost think I enjoy a meal all the better when I can sit down and eat by myself.
As long as you're enjoying it. I expect that's Mr. Hofstad.
Very likely.
Peter Stockmann comes in. He wears an overcoat and his official hat and carries a stick.
Evening, Catherine.
Oh, how good of you to come up and see us.
Well, I happen to be passing, but you have company with you, I see.
Oh, no, it was quite by chance she came in. Won't you come in and have something?
No. Oh, no, thank you. Good gracious. Hot meat at night, not with my digestion. Yeah. No, my dear. I stick to tea and bread and butter. It is much more wholesome in the long run, and a little more economical too.
Now, you mustn't think that Thomas and I are spendthrifts.
My dear, I would never think that of you. Is he at home?
No, he went out after supper, he and the girls.
Oh, I doubt if that is a wise thing to do. I fancy I hear him coming in now.
No, I don't think.
A knock is heard at the door.
Come in. Oh, Mr. Hofstad.
I hope you'll forgive me, but I was delayed at the printers. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Mayor, excuse me.
Yes, good evening. You have come on business, no doubt.
Partly. It's about an article for the paper.
Yes, so I imagined. I hear my brother has become a prolific contributor to the People's Messenger.
Yes, he is good enough to write in the People's Messenger when he has any home truths to tell.
Quite so. Yes, quite so. I mean, I don't blame him in the least as a writer for addressing himself to the quarters where he will find the readiest sympathy. And besides that, I personally have no reason to bear any ill will to your paper, Mr. Hofstad.
I quite agree with you.
Yes, taking one thing with another, there is an excellent spirit of toleration in the town, an admirable municipal spirit, and it all springs from the fact of having a great common interest to unite us, an interest that is in an equally high degree the concern of every right-minded citizen.
The baths, yes.
Exactly, our fine, new, handsome bath. Mark my words, the baths will become the focus of our municipal life.
That's just what Thomas says.
I mean, think of how extraordinarily the place has developed the last year or two. Money has been flowing in. Houses and property are rising in value every day.
And unemployment is diminishing.
Yes. The burden on the poor rates has been lightened, and that relief will be even greater if we could only get a really good summer this year, and lots of visitors, plenty of invalids who will make the baths talked about.
Well, the doctor's article will come in very suitably.
Oh, has he been writing something lately?
Something he wrote in the winter, a recommendation of the baths, an account of the excellent sanitary conditions, but I held the article over temporarily.
Ah, some little difficulty about it, I suppose?
No, not at all. I thought it would be better to wait until the spring because it is just at this time that people begin to think seriously about their summer quarters.
Quite right. You are perfectly right, Mr. Hofstad.
Yes, Thomas really is indefatigable when it is a question of the baths.
That's indefatigable, yes. Well, remember, he is the medical officer to the baths.
Yes, and what is more, they owe their existence to him.
It is true, I have heard from time to time that some people are of that opinion. At the same time, I must say I imagined that I took a modest part in the enterprise.
Yes, that is what Thomas is always saying.
You set the thing going and made a practical concern of it. We all know that. I only meant that the idea of it came from the doctor.
Ideas, yes. My brother has had plenty of them in his time, unfortunately. But when it is a question of putting an idea into practical shape, you have to apply to a man or a woman of a different metal, Mr. Hofstad. And I certainly should have thought that at this house, at least,
My dear Peter.
How can you think that?
Will you go in and have something to eat, Mr. Hofstad? My husband is sure to be back directly.
Thank you. Perhaps just a morsel.
I mean, it's a curious thing that these farmers' sons never seem to lose their want of tact.
Surely it's not worth bothering about. Cannot you and Thomas share a credit?
You know, I should have thought so, but apparently some people are not satisfied with a share.
What nonsense. You and Thomas get on so capitally together. There he is at last, I think.
Oh, look here. Here's another guest for you, Catherine. Oh, isn't that jolly? Hey, Captain Horster, hang your coat up on this peg. Just think, Catherine. I met him in the street and could hardly persuade him to come up. Come along in, girls. Oh, they're ravenously hungry. Captain Horster, you must have a slice of beef.
But pushes Horster into the dining room. Iliff and Morton go in after them.
But Thomas,
Oh, is it you, Peter? Ha. Ah, now that's very delightful.
Unfortunately, I must go in a moment.
Rubbish! Oh, there's some toddy just coming in. You haven't forgotten the toddy, Catherine?
Of course not. The water's boiling right now.
Goes into the dining room.
Yes, sit down.
Yes, no, thanks. I never care about an evening's drinking.
But this isn't an evening's drinking.
Well, it seems to me it is extraordinary how they can put away food.
Yes, isn't it splendid to see young people eat? They've always got an appetite, you know. Well, that's as it should be. Lots of food to build up their strength. These are the people who are going to stir up the fermenting forces of the future, Peter.
May I ask what they will find here to stir up, as you put it?
What? You must ask the young people that when the time comes. Oh, we shan't be able to see it, of course. Well, that stands to reason. Two old fogies like us.
Really, I must say that is an extremely odd expression to...
Oh, no, you mustn't take me too literally, Peter. I'm so heartily happy and contented, you know. I think it's such an extraordinary piece of good fortune to be in the middle of all this growing, germinating life. It's a splendid time to live in. It's as if the whole new world were being created around one. There's life here. You know, there's promise. There are innumerable things to work for and fight for. Catherine, has the postman been?
No.
And then to be comfortably off, Peter. That is something one learns to value when one has been on the brink of starvation, as we have.
Oh, surely you wouldn't say you're on...
Indeed, I can assure you we have often been very hard put to it. And now to be able to live like a lord. Today, for instance, we had roast beef for dinner, and what's more, for supper too. Won't you come in and have a little bit? Or let me show it you at any rate. Come here.
No.
Well, just come here then. Look, do you see, we've got a table cover.
Yes, I noticed it.
And we've got a lampshade too, you see? All out of Catherine's savings. It makes the room so cozy. Don't you think so? Now just stand here for a moment. No, not there, just here. Yes, that's it. Look now, when you get the light on it all together, I really think it looks very nice, doesn't it?
Oh, well, if you can afford luxuries of this kind.
Yes, I can afford it now. Catherine tells me I earn almost as much as we spend.
Almost, yes.
Yes, but a scientific man must live in a little bit of style. I'm quite sure an ordinary civil servant spends more in a year than I do.
I dare say, a civil servant, a man in a well-paid position.
Well, any ordinary merchant then. A man in that position spends 2 or 3 times as much as...
It just depends on circumstances.
At all events, I assure you I don't waste money. But I can't find it in my heart to deny myself the pleasure of entertaining my friends. I need that sort of thing, you know. I've lived for so long shut out of it all that it's a necessity of life to me to mix with young, eager, ambitious men, men of liberal and active minds, and that describes every one of those fellows who are enjoying that supper in there. I wish you knew more of Hofstad.
Ah, by the way, Hofstad was telling me he was going to print another article of yours.
An article of mine?
Yes, about the baths, an article you wrote in winter.
Oh, yeah, that one. No, I don't intend to for that to appear for the present.
Why not? It seems to me that this would be the most opportune moment.
Yes, very likely, under normal conditions.
Well, is there anything abnormal about the present conditions?
To tell you the truth, Peter, I can't just say at this moment. At all events, not tonight. There may be much that is very abnormal about the present conditions, and it is possible there may be nothing abnormal about them at all. It is quite possible it may be merely my imagination.
Okay, I must say it all sounds most mysterious. Is there something going on that I need to be kept in ignorance of? I should have imagined that I, as chairman of the governing body of the baths...
Oh, no, come on. Don't let us fly out at one another, Peter.
I am not in the habit of flying out at people, as you call it, but I am entitled to request more emphatically that all arrangements shall be made in a business-like manner through the proper channels and shall be dealt with by the legally constituted authorities.
Have I ever at any time tried to go behind your back?
You have an ingrained tendency to take your own way at all elements, and that is almost equally inadmissible in a well-ordered community. The individual ought undoubtedly to acquiesce in subordinating himself to the community, or to speak more accurately, to the authorities who have the care of the community's welfare.
Very likely, but what the deuce has all this got to do with me?
That is exactly what you never appear willing to learn, my dear Thomas, but mark my words, someday you will have to suffer for it, sooner or later.
Have you taken leave of your senses?
Okay, you must excuse me now. Good night, Catherine. Good night, gentlemen.
Goes out.
Has she gone?
Yes. I'm in such a bad temper.
But, dear Thomas, what have you been doing to her?
Nothing at all. And anyhow, she can't oblige me to make my report before the proper time.
What have you got to make a report to her about?
Oh, leave that to me, Catherine. It is an extraordinary thing that the postman doesn't come.
Hofstad, Billing, and Horster have got up from the table and come into the sitting room. Iliff and Morton come in after them.
Oh, one feels a new man after a meal like that.
The mayor wasn't in a very sweet temper tonight then.
Oh, it's her stomach. She has wretched digestion.
I rather think it was us two of the People's Messenger that she couldn't digest.
I thought you came out of it pretty well.
Oh, yes. But it is anything more than a sort of truce.
That is just what it is. That word sums up the situation.
We must remember that Peter is lonely. She's nothing but everlasting business and all that infernal weak tea wash that she pours into herself. Now then, bring up chairs to the table. Are we going to have that toddy, Catherine?
I'm just getting it.
Yeah, sit down here on the couch beside me, Captain Horster. We so seldom see you. Please, sit down, my friend.
There you are. This is arak, and this is rum, and this one is the brandy. Now everyone must help themselves.
We will. And let us have the cigars. Elif, you know where the box is. Oh, and you, Morton, can fetch my pipe. I have a suspicion that Elif pockets a cigar now and then, but I take no notice of it. Oh, and my smoking cap too, Morton. Catherine, you can tell her where I left it. Now, my friends, I stick to my pipe, you know. This one has seen plenty of bad weather with me up north. Your good health. Oh, it's so good to be sitting snug and warm here.
Do you sail soon, Captain Horster?
I expect to be ready to sail next week.
I suppose you're going to America?
Yep, that's the plan.
Then you won't be able to take part in the coming election.
Is there going to be an election?
Didn't you know?
No. I don't mix myself up in those sorts of things.
But do you not take an interest in public affairs?
No. I don't know anything about politics.
All the same, one ought to vote, at any rate.
Even if one doesn't know anything about what's going on.
Doesn't know? What do you mean by that? A community is like a ship. Everyone ought to be prepared to take the helm.
Maybe that is all very well on shore, but on board a ship, it wouldn't work.
It's astonishing how little most sailors care about what goes on shore.
Very extraordinary.
Sailors are like birds of passage. They feel equally at home in any latitude. And that's only an additional reason for our being all the more keen, Hofstad. Is there to be anything of public interest in tomorrow's messenger?
Nothing about municipal affairs, but the day after tomorrow, I was thinking of printing your article.
Ah, devil take it. Oh, my article. No, look here, that must wait.
Really? We had just got convenient space for it, and I thought it was just the opportune moment.
Yes, very likely you're right, but it must wait all the same. I'll explain to you later.
Petra comes in from the hall in hat and cloak with a bundle of exercise books under her arm.
Evening.
Ah, evening, Petra.
And have you all been sitting here enjoying yourselves while I've been out slaving?
Yeah, well, come and enjoy yourself too.
May I mix a glass for you?
Thanks, I'd rather do it. You always mix it too strong. Oh, but I forgot, Father, I have a letter for you.
Oh, a letter? From whom?
The postman gave it to me just as I was going out.
You only just give it to me now?
I had no time to run up again. There.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see.
Is it the one you've been expecting so anxiously, Thomas?
Yes, it is. I must go to my room now. And where shall I get a light, Catherine? Is there no lamp in my room again?
Yes, your lamp is already lit on your desk.
Good. Excuse me for a moment.
What do you suppose it is?
I don't know. For the last day or two, he has always been asking if the postman has not been.
Probably some country patient.
Poor old Dad. He'll overwork himself soon. There. That will taste good.
Have you been teaching in the evening school again?
Yes, 2 hours.
And 4 hours of school in the morning?
5.
And you've still got exercises to correct, I see.
A heap.
You're pretty full up with work too, it seems to me.
Yes, but that's good. One is always so wonderfully tired after it.
Do you like that?
Yes, because one sleeps so well.
You must be dreadfully wicked, Petra.
Wicked?
Yes, because you work so much. Mr. Rowland says work is a punishment for our sins.
Pooh, what a duffer you are to believe a thing like that.
Calm, Eilif.
That's capital.
Don't you want to work as hard as that, Morton?
No, indeed I don't.
And what do you want to be then?
I should like to be a Viking.
You'd have to be a pagan then.
Well, I could become a pagan, couldn't I?
I agree with you, Morton. My sentiments exactly.
I am sure that is not true, Mr. Billing.
Yes, I swear it is. I am a pagan and I am proud of it. Believe me, before long, we shall all be pagans.
And then we shall be allowed to do anything we like?
Well, you'll see, Morton.
You must go to your room now. I'm sure you have some lessons to learn for tomorrow.
I should like so much to stay a little longer.
No, away you go, both of you.
Boys say goodnight and go into the room on the left.
Do you really think it can do them any harm to hear such things?
I don't know, but I don't like it.
You know, Mother, I really think you're wrong about it.
Maybe, but I don't like it. Not in our own home.
There's so much falsehood at home and at school. At home one mustn't speak, and at school we have to stand and tell lies to the children.
Tell lies?
Yes, we have to teach them all sorts of things that we don't believe.
That is perfectly true.
If only I had the means, I would start a school of my own and it would be conducted on very different lines.
Oh, bother the means.
Well, if you're thinking of that, Miss Stockmann, I shall be delighted to provide you with a schoolroom. The great big old house my father left me is standing almost empty. There's an immense dining room downstairs.
Thank you very much, but I'm afraid nothing will come of it.
No, Petra is much more likely to take to journalism, I expect. By the way, have you had time to do anything with that English story you promised to translate for us?
No, not yet, but you shall have it in good time.
Dr. Stockmann comes in from his room with an open letter in his hand.
Well, now the town will have something new to talk about, I can tell you.
Something new?
What?
A great discovery.
Really?
A discovery of yours?
A discovery of mine. Just let them come saying, as usual, that it is all fancy and a crazy man's imagination, but they will be careful what they say this time, I can tell you.
Well, tell us what it is.
Yes, give me time, and you shall all know about it. Oh, if only I had Peter here now. It just shows how we can all go about forming our judgments when, in reality...
What are you driving at, Doctor?
Isn't it the universal opinion that our town is a healthy spot?
Certainly.
Quite an unusually possible manner, either for invalids or for people who are well.
Yes, but my dear Thomas.
And we have been recommending it and praising it. I have written and written, both in the messenger and in pamphlets.
Well, what then?
And the baths. We have called them the main artery of the town's lifeblood, the nerve center of our town, and a devil knows what else.
The town's pulsating heart was the expression I once used on an important occasion.
Quite so. Well, do you know what they really are? These great, splendid, much praised baths that have cost so much money. Do you know what they are?
No, what are they?
Yes, what are they?
The whole place is a pest house.
The baths?
Our baths?
But doctor.
Absolutely incredible.
The whole bath establishment is a whited poison sepulchre, I tell you. The gravest possible danger to public health. All that nastiness up at Molodau, all that stinking filth is infecting the water in the conduit pipes leading to the reservoir, and the same cursed, filthy poison oozes out into the shore too.
Where the bathing place is?
Just there.
How do you come to be so certain?
I've investigated the matter. Last year, we had some very strange cases of illness among the visitors. Typhoid cases and cases of gastric fever. At the time, we supposed the visitors had been infected before they came, but later on in the winter, I began to have a different opinion. So I set myself to examine the water as well as I could.
And that's what you've been so busy with?
Indeed. But here I had none of the necessary scientific apparatus, so I sent samples, both of the drinking water and of the seawater, up to the university to have an accurate analysis made by a chemist.
And have you got that?
Here it is. It proves the presence of decomposing organic matter in the water. It is full of infusoria. The water is absolutely dangerous to use, either internally or externally.
Oh, mercy that you discovered it in time.
You may well say so.
And what do you propose to do now, Doctor?
Well, to see the matter put right, naturally.
Can that be done?
It must be done. Otherwise the baths will be absolutely useless and wasted. But we need not anticipate that. I have a very clear idea what we shall have to do.
Why have you kept this so secret?
Well, do you suppose I was going to run around the town gossiping about it before I had absolute proof? No, thank you. I'm not such a fool.
Well, still, you might have told us.
I'm not a living soul. Tomorrow you may run around to the old badger.
Thomas.
Well, to your grandfather then. I know he thinks I'm cracked. There are lots of other people who think so too, but now these good folk shall see. There will be a nice upset in the town, Catherine. You can't imagine what it will be. All the conduit pipes will have to be relayed.
All the conduit pipes?
Yes, of course. Well, the intake is too low down. It will have to be lifted to a position much higher up.
Then you were right after all.
Ah, you remember, Petra. I wrote opposing the plans before the work was begun. But at the time, no one would listen to me. Well, I'm going to let them have it now. Of course, I have prepared a report for the Baths Committee. I've had it ready for a week and was only waiting for this to come. Now, we shall have to go off at once. Look at that. 4 closely written sheets, and the letter shall go with them. Oh, give me a bit of paper, Catherine. Something to wrap them up in. Give it to the maid and tell her to take it at once to the mayor.
Mrs. Stockmann takes the packet and goes out through the dining room.
What do you think Auntie Peter will say, Father?
What's there for him to say? I should think he would be very glad that such an important truth has been brought to light.
Will you let me print a short note about your discovery in the messenger?
I should be very much obliged if you will.
It is very desirable that the public should be informed of it without delay.
Certainly.
She's just gone with it.
Upon my soul, Doctor, you are going to be the foremost man in town.
Nonsense. I've done nothing more than my duty. I've only had a lucky find, that's all.
Hosta, don't you think the town ought to give Dr. Stockmann some sort of testimonial?
No, my good friends, don't let us have any of that nonsense. I won't hear anything of the kind. And if the Bath Committee should think of voting me an increase of salary, I will not accept it. You hear me, Catherine? I won't accept it.
You're quite right, Thomas.
Your health, Father.
Your health, Doctor. Your health.
I hope it will bring you nothing but good luck.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear fellows. I feel tremendously happy. It's a splendid thing for a man to be able to feel that he's done a service to his native town and to his fellow citizens. Hurrah, Catherine!
He puts his arms round her and whirls her round and round while she protests while laughing with laughing cries. They put their heads in at the door to see what's going on. Act 2. The same. The door into the dining room is shut. It is morning. Mrs. Stockmann, with a sealed letter in her hand, comes in from the dining room, goes to the door of the doctor's study, and peeps in.
Are you in, Thomas?
Yes, I've just come in. What is it?
A letter from your sister.
Aha, let's see. I return here with the manuscript you sent me.
What did she say?
Oh, she only writes that she will come up here herself about midday.
We'll try and remember to be home this time.
Oh, that will be all right. I've got through all my morning visits.
Extremely curious to know how she takes it.
You'll see she won't like its having been I, and not she, that made the discovery.
Aren't you a little nervous about that?
Oh, she really will be pleased enough, you know. But at the same time, Peter is so confoundedly afraid of anyone's doing any service to the town except herself.
I'll tell you what, Thomas. You should be good-natured and share the credit of this with her. Couldn't you make out that it was she who set you on the scent of this discovery?
I'm quite willing. If only I can get the things set right,
Mordenkill puts his head in through the door leading from the hall, looks around in an inquiring manner, and chuckles.
Is it true?
Father!
Ah, Mr. Keel, good morning. Good morning.
If it is true, I will, and if not, I'm off.
Well, if what is true?
This tale about the water supply, is it true?
Certainly it's true. But how did you come to hear it?
Petra ran on her way to the school.
Did she?
Yes. And she declares that I thought she was only making a fool of me, but it isn't like Petra to do that.
Of course not.
Well, it is better never to trust anybody. You may find you've been made a fool of before you know where you are. But it is really true all the same?
You can depend on it. Won't you sit down? Isn't it a real bit of luck for the town?
A bit of luck for the town?
Well, yes, that I made this discovery in good time.
Oh, yes. But I should never have thought you the sort of man to pull your own sister's leg like this.
Pull her leg?
Really, Father?
Let me see. What was the story? Some kind of beast that had got into the water pipes, wasn't it?
Infusoria, yes.
And a lot of these beasts had got in, according to Petra, a tremendous lot.
Certainly, hundreds of thousands of them, probably.
But no one can see them. Isn't that so?
Yes, you can't see them.
Damn, it is the finest story I have ever heard.
What do you mean?
But you'll never get the mayor to believe a thing like that.
We shall see.
Do you think she'll be fool enough to?
I hope the whole town will be fools enough.
The whole town? Well, it wouldn't be a bad thing. It would just serve them right and teach them a lesson. They think themselves so much cleverer than we old fellows. They hounded me out of council, they did. And I tell you, they hounded me out. And now they shall pay for it, Thomas.
Really?
You pull their legs. If you can work it so the mayor and all our friends swallows that same bait, I'll give £10 to a charity, like a shot.
That's very kind of you.
Yes. I haven't got much money to throw away, I can tell you. But if you can work this, I'll give £5 to a charity at Christmas.
Halfstad comes in by the hall door.
Good morning. Oh, I beg your pardon.
No, not at all. Come in.
Is he in this too?
What do you mean?
Certainly he is.
I might have known it. It must get into the papers. You know how to do it, Thomas. Set your wits to work. Now I must go.
Won't you stay a little while?
No, I must be off. You keep up this game. You won't repent it. I'm damned if you will.
He goes out. Mrs. Stockmann exits and follows him into the hall.
Just imagine. The old chap doesn't believe a word of all this about the water supply.
Oh, that was it then?
Yes, that was what we were talking about. Well, perhaps it's the same thing that brings you up here.
Yes, it is. Can you spare me a few minutes, Doctor?
Well, as long as you like.
Have you heard from the mayor?
Well, not yet. She's coming here later.
I have given the matter a great deal of thought since last night.
Well?
From your point of view as a doctor and as a man of science, this affair of the water supply is an isolated matter. I mean, you do not realize that it involves a great many other things.
How do you mean?
You said yesterday that the pollution of the water was due to impurities in the soil.
Yes, unquestionably. It's due to the poisonous morass up at Moladar.
Begging your pardon, Doctor, I fancy it is due to quite another morass altogether.
What?
The morass that the whole life of our town is built on and is rotting in.
What are you driving at, Hofstad?
The whole of the town's interests have little by little got into the hands of a pack of officials.
Oh, come. They're not all officials.
No, but those that are not officials are at any rate the officials' friends. It is the wealthy folk, the old families in the town that have got us entirely in their hands.
Yes, but after all, they're men of ability and knowledge.
Did they show any ability or knowledge when they laid the conduit pipes where they are now?
No, of course, that was a great piece of stupidity on their part, but that's going to be set right now.
Do you think that will be plain sailing?
Plain sailing or not, it has to be done.
Yes, provided the press takes up the question.
I don't think that will be necessary, my dear fellow. I'm certain that my sister...
Excuse me, Doctor, I feel bound to tell you that I am inclined to take up the matter.
In the paper?
Yes. When I took over the People's Messenger, my idea was to break up this ring of self-opinionated old fossils who had got hold of all the influence.
But you told me yourself what the result had been. You nearly ruined your paper.
Yes, at the time we were obliged to climb down a peg or two because there was a danger of the whole project of the baths coming to nothing if they failed us. But now the scheme has been carried through and we can dispense with these grand gentlemen.
Dispense with them, yes, but we owe them a great debt of gratitude.
That shall be recognized ungrudgingly, but a journalist of my democratic tendencies cannot let such an opportunity as this slip. The bubble of official infallibility must be pricked. This superstition must be destroyed, like any other.
I am wholeheartedly with you in that, Mr. Hofstad. If it is a superstition, away with it.
I should be very reluctant to bring the mayor into it because she is your sister, but I am sure you will agree with me that the truth should be the first consideration.
Well, that goes without saying. Yes, but
you must not misjudge me. I am neither more self-interested nor more ambitious than most men.
My dear fellow, who suggests anything of the kind?
I am of humble origin, as you know, and that has given me opportunities of knowing what is the most crying need in the humbler ranks of life. It is that they should be allowed some part in the direction of public affairs, Doctor. That is what will develop their faculties and intelligence and self-respect.
I quite appreciate that.
Yes, and in my opinion, a journalist incurs a heavy responsibility if he neglects a favorable opportunity of emancipating the masses, the humble and oppressed. I know well enough that in exalted circles I shall be called an agitator, but they may call me what they like if only my conscience doesn't reproach me, then...
Yeah, quite right. Quite right, Mr. Hofstad. But all the same, devil take it.
A knock is heard at the door.
Oh, come in.
Aslaxon appears at the door. He is poorly but decently dressed in black with a slightly crumpled white neckcloth. He wears gloves and has a felt hat in his hand.
Excuse me for taking the liberty, Doctor.
Ah, it's you, Aslaxon.
Yes, Doctor.
Is it me you want, Aslaxon?
No, I didn't know I should find you here. No, it was the Doctor.
Yes, I'm quite at your service. What is it?
Is what I heard from Mr. Billing true, sir, that you mean to improve our water supply?
Yes, for the baths.
Quite so, I understand. Yeah. Well, I have come to say that I will back you with every means in my power.
You see?
I shall be very grateful to you,
But because it may be no bad thing to have us small tradesmen at your back. We form, as it were, a compact majority in the town, if we choose. And it is always a good thing to have the majority with you, Doctor.
Yeah, that's undeniably true, but I confess, I don't see why such unusual precautions should be necessary in this case. It seems to me that such a plain, straightforward thing.
No, I know our local authorities well. Officials are not generally very ready to act on proposals that come from other people. That is why I think it would be not at all amiss if we made a little demonstration.
That's right.
Demonstration? Did you say? Well, what on earth are you going to make a demonstration about?
We shall proceed with the greatest moderation, Doctor. Moderation is always my aim. It is the greatest virtue in a citizen, at least I think so.
Well, it is well known to be a characteristic of yours, Mr. Aslaskson.
Yes, I think I may pride myself on that. And this matter of the water supply is of the greatest importance to us small tradesmen. The baths promise to be a regular gold mine for the town. We shall all make our living out of them, especially those of us who are householders. And that is why we will back up the project as strongly as possible. And as I am at present chairman of the Householders Association, and what is more, local secretary of the Temperance Society, you know, sir, I suppose that I am a worker in the temperance cause.
Well, of course, yeah.
Well, you can understand that I come into contact with a great many people. And as I have the reputation of a temperate and law-abiding citizen like yourself, Doctor, I have a certain influence in the town, a little bit of power, if I may be allowed to say so.
I know that quite well.
So you see, it would be an easy matter for me to set on foot some testimonial, if necessary.
A testimonial?
Yes, some kind of an address of thanks from the townsmen for your share in a matter of such importance to the community. I scarcely need to say that I would have it drawn up with the greatest regard to moderation, so as not to offend the authorities, who, after all, have the reins in their hands.
Oh, I can't tell you how extremely pleased I am to find such hearty support among my fellow citizens. I'm delighted, yes.
I'm going to town now to talk this over with one or two householders and prepare the ground.
It's tremendously kind of you, Mr. Aslaskson, but I really cannot understand the necessity for all these precautions. It seems to me that the thing should go for itself.
Oh, the authorities are somewhat slow to move, Doctor. Far be it from me to seem to blame them.
We are going to stir them up in the paper tomorrow, Aslaskson.
Yeah, but not violently, I trust, Mr. Hofstad. Proceed with moderation, or you will do nothing with them. You may take my advice. I have gathered my experience in the school of life. Well, I must say goodbye, Doctor. You know now that we small tradesmen are at your back, at all events, like a solid wall. You have the compact majority on your side, Doctor.
I'm very much obliged, dear Mr. Aslaskson. Goodbye.
Are you going my way towards the printing office, Mr. Hofstad?
I will come later. I have something to settle up first.
Oh, very well.
Bows and goes out. Stockmann follows him into the hall.
Well, what do you think of that, Doctor? Don't you think it's high time we stirred a little life into all this slackness and vacillation and cowardice?
You were referring to Aslaskson?
Yes, he is a decent enough fellow, but most of the people here are just the same, seesawing and edging first to one side and then the other, so overcome with caution and scruple that they never dare to take any decided step.
Yes, but Aslaskson seemed to me to be thoroughly well-intentioned.
There is one thing I esteem higher than that, and that is for a man to be self-reliant and sure of himself.
I think you're perfectly right there.
That is why I want to seize this opportunity and try to put a little virility into these well-intentioned people for once. The idol of authority must be shattered in this town. This gross and inexcusable blunder about the water supply must be brought home to the mind of every voter.
Very well. If you're of the opinion that it is good for the community, so be it. But not until I've had a talk with my sister.
Anyway, I will get a leading article ready, and if the mayor refuses to take the matter up...
how can you suppose such a thing is possible?
It is conceivable. And in that case...
In that case, I promise you, you may print my report, every word of it.
I have your word for it.
Here it is. Take it with you. It'll do no harm for you to read it through, and you can give it back to me later on.
That is what I will do. Goodbye, Doctor.
Goodbye. Goodbye. You will see everything will run quite smoothly, Mr. Hofstad. Quite smoothly.
Oh. We shall see.
Bows and goes out.
Catherine? Oh, are you back, Petra?
Yes, I've just come back from the school.
Has she not been here yet?
Oh, Peter? No, but I have had a long talk with Hofstad. He's quite excited about my discovery. Well, I find it has a much wider bearing than I at first imagined. And he has put his paper at my disposal if necessity should arise.
You think it will?
Well, not for a moment. But at all events, it makes me feel proud to know that I have the liberal-minded independent press on my side. Yes. Well, just imagine. I have had a visit from the chairman of the Householders Association.
Oh, what did he want?
To offer me his support, Catherine. Do you know what I have got behind me?
Behind you? No, what have you got behind you?
The compact majority.
Really? Is that a good thing for you?
I should think it was. Oh, by Jove, it's a fine thing to feel this bond of brotherhood between oneself and one's fellow citizens.
And to be able to do so much that is good and useful, Father.
And for one's own native town, my child.
Mm-hmm.
That was the ring at the bell.
Come in.
Peter Stockmann comes in from the hall.
Good morning.
Ah, glad to see you, Peter.
Good morning, Peter. How are you?
I received from you yesterday, after office hours, a report dealing with the condition of the water at the baths.
Yes. Yeah, have you read it?
Yes, I have.
And what have you to say about it?
Come on, Petra.
He and Petra go into the room on the left.
Was it necessary to make all these investigations behind my back?
Yes, because until I was absolutely certain about it,
Then you mean that you are absolutely certain now?
Surely you're convinced of that.
Is it your intention to bring this document before the Baths Committee as a sort of official communication?
Certainly. Something must be done.
As usual, you employ violent expressions in your report. You say, amongst other things, that we offer visitors in our baths. What we offer to our visitors in the baths is a permanent supply of poison.
Well, can you describe it any other way, Peter? Well, just think. Water that is poisonous, whether you drink it or bathe in it. And this we offer to the poor sick folk who come to trust us fully and pay us at an exorbitant rate to be made well again.
And your reasoning leads you to this conclusion that we must build a sewer to draw off the alleged impurities from Ulldown and must relay the water conduits.
Yes. Would you see any other way out of it?
I made a pretext this morning to go and see the town engineer and, as if only half seriously, broach the subject of these proposals as a thing we might perhaps have to take under consideration some later time on.
Some later time on?
Well, he smiled at what he considered to be my extravagance. Have you taken the trouble to consider what your proposed alterations would cost? According to the information I obtained, the expenses would probably mount up to 15 or 20,000 pounds.
Oh, would it cost so much?
Yes. And the worst part of it would be that the work would take at least 2 years.
2 years?
At least. And what are we to do with the baths in the meantime? Close them? Indeed, we should be obliged to. And do you suppose anyone would come near the place after if it had got out that the water was dangerous?
Yes, but Peter, that is what it is.
And all this, just as the baths are beginning to be known. There are other towns in the neighborhood with qualifications to attract visitors for bathing purposes. Don't you suppose they would immediately strain every nerve to divert the entire stream of strangers to themselves? And then where would we be? We should probably have to abandon the whole thing. which has cost us so much money. And then you would have ruined your native town.
I should have ruined.
It is simply and solely through the baths that the town has become, that the town has before it any future worth mentioning. You know that just as well as I.
What do you think ought to be done then?
Your report has not convinced me that the condition of the water at the baths is as bad as you represent it to be.
Oh, I tell you, it is even worse. Or at all events, it will be in summer when the warm weather comes.
As I said, I believe you exaggerate the matter considerably. A capable physician ought to know what measures to take. He ought to be capable of remedying them if they become persistent. The water supply of the baths is now an established fact, and in consequence must be treated as such. But probably the committee, at its discretion, will not be disinclined to consider how it might introduce certain improvements consistent with a reasonable expenditure.
And do you suppose that I will have anything to do with such a piece of trickery as that?
Trickery?
Yes. It would be a trick, yeah, a fraud, a lie, a downright crime towards the public, towards the whole community.
I have not, as I remarked before, been able to convince myself that there is actually any imminent danger.
You have, Peter, only you won't acknowledge it. It was owing to your action that both the baths and the water conduits were built where they are, and that is what you don't acknowledge. That damnable blunder of yours. Do you suppose I don't see through you?
And even if it were true, if I perhaps guard my reputation somewhat anxiously, it is in the interests of the town. Without moral authority, I am powerless to direct public affairs, as seems, to my judgment, to be the best for the common good. And on that account, it appears to me to be a matter of importance that your report should not be delivered to committee. In the interests of the public, you must withhold it. Then, later on, I will raise the question and we will do our best privately. But nothing of this unfortunate affair, not a single word of it, must come to the ears of the public.
I'm afraid you will not be able to prevent that now.
It must and shall be prevented.
No, it is of no use, I tell you. There are too many people that know about it.
That know about it? So who? Surely you don't mean those fellows on the People's Messenger?
Yes, they know. The liberal-minded independent press is going to see that you do your duty.
You are an extraordinarily independent man, Thomas. Have you given no thought to the consequences this may have for yourself?
Consequences? For me?
For you and yours, yes.
What do you mean?
I believe I've always behaved in a sisterly way to you. Haven't I? Haven't I always been ready to oblige or to help you?
Yes, you have, and I am very grateful to you for it.
Well, I was forced to do so, for my own sake. I always hoped that if I helped to improve your financial position, I should be able to keep some check on you.
What? Then it was only for your own sake.
Up to a certain point, yes. It is painful for a woman in an official position to have their nearest relative compromising them time after time.
And do you consider that I do that?
Yes, unfortunately you do, without even being aware of it. You have a restless, pugnacious, rebellious disposition. And then there is that disastrous propensity of yours to want to write about every sort of possible and impossible thing. The moment an idea comes into your head, you must go and write a newspaper article or a whole pamphlet about it.
Well, but is it not the duty of a citizen to let the public share in any new ideas he may have?
The public doesn't require any new ideas. The public is best served by the good, old, established ideas it already has.
And that is your honest opinion?
Yes, and for once, I must talk frank with you. I've tried to avoid doing so because I know how irritable you are, but now I must tell you the truth. Thomas, you are an extremely cantankerous man to work with. You disregard everything that you ought to have consideration for. You seem completely to forget that it is me you have to thank for your appointment here as the medical officer of the baths.
I was entitled to it as a matter of course. I and nobody else. I was the first person to see that the town could be made into a flourishing watering place, and I was the only one who saw it at that time. I had to fight single-handed in support of the idea for many years, and I wrote, and it was me.
Things were not right for the scheme then, though of course you could not judge that out of your out-of-the-way corner up north. But as soon as the offer our hands.
Yes, and made this mess of my beautiful plan.
To my mind, the whole thing only seems to mean that you are seeking another outlet for your combativeness.
And what is that?
As you have been so indiscreet as to speak of this delicate matter to outsiders, despite the fact that you ought to have treated it as entirely official and confidential, it is obviously impossible to hush it up now, and everybody who has a grudge against us will take care to embellish these rumors. So it will be necessary for you to refute them publicly.
Aye. How?
What we shall expect is that after making further investigations, you will come to the conclusion that the matter is not by any means as dangerous or as critical as you imagined in the first instance.
Oh, yeah, so that is what you expect.
We shall expect you to make public profession of your confidence. Excuse me. We shall expect you to make public profession of your confidence in the committee and in their readiness to consider fully and conscientiously what steps may be necessary to remedy any possible defects.
But you will never be able to do that by patching and tinkering at it. Never. Take my word for it, Peter. I mean what I say.
As an officer under the committee, you have no right to any individual opinion.
No right?
In your official capacity, no. As a private person, it is quite another matter, but as a subordinate member of the staff of the baths, you have no right to express any opinion which runs contrary to that of your superiors.
This is too much. I, a doctor, a man of science, have a right to...
The matter in hand is not simply a scientific one. It is a complicated matter, and it has an economic side.
I don't care what it is. I intend to be free to express my opinion on any subject under the sun.
As you please, but not on any subject concerning the baths. That we forbid.
You forbid? You!
I forbid it. I, your chief, and you have to obey.
Peter, if you were not my sister.
Father, you shan't stand this.
Petra!
Oh, so you have been eavesdropping. Mm-hmm.
You were talking so loud we couldn't help it.
Yes, I was listening.
Well,
You were saying something about forbidding and obeying?
you obliged me to take that tone with you.
And so I am to give myself the lie publicly?
We consider it absolutely necessary that you should make some public statement, yes.
And if I do not obey?
Then we shall publish a statement ourselves to reassure the public.
Very well. But in that case, I shall use my pen against you. I will show that I am right and that you're wrong. And what will you do then?
Then I shall not be able to prevent your being dismissed.
What?
Father, dismissed?
Dismissed?
Dismissed from the staff of the baths. I shall be obliged to propose that you shall not be allowed any further participation in the baths affair.
You would dare?
That is a shameful way to treat a man like father.
Hold your tongue, Petra.
Oh, so we volunteer our opinions already, do we? Yes, of course we do, Petra. Catherine, I imagine you are the most sensible person in this house. Use any influence you may have over your husband and make him see that what this will entail for his family as well.
My family is my own concern and nobody else's.
For his family, for his own family, as well as for the town in which he lives.
It is I who have the real good of the town at heart. I want to lay bare the defects that sooner or later must come to the light of day. I will show whether I love my native town.
You want to cut off the most important source of the town's welfare?
The source is poisoned, woman. Are you mad? We're making our living by retailing filth and corruption. The whole of our flourishing municipal life derives its sustenance from a lie.
All imagination. The man who could throw out such offensive insinuations about his native town, I mean, it must be an enemy to our community.
Do you dare to—
Thomas!
Don't lose your temper.
You know what? I will not expose myself to violence. Reflect on what you owe to yourself and to your family. Goodbye.
Am I to put up with such treatment as this? In my own house, Catherine, what do you think of that?
Indeed, it is both shameful and absurd.
If only I could give her a piece of my mind.
To hear her call me an enemy to our community. Me! I shall not take that lying down.
Thomas, your sister has power on her side.
Yes, but I have right on mine, I tell you.
Oh, yes, right. What is the use of having right on your side if you have not got might?
Mother, how can you say such a thing?
You imagine that in a free country, it is no use having right on your side? Besides, haven't I got the liberal-minded, independent press to lead the way and the compact majority behind me? Well, that is might enough, I should think.
Good heavens, Thomas, you don't mean to...
Don't mean to what?
To set yourself up in opposition to your sister.
Well, in God's name, what else do you suppose I should do but take my stand on right and truth?
Yes, exactly.
It won't do you any earthly good. If they won't do it, they won't.
Oh, Catherine, just give me time and you will see how I will carry the war into their camp.
Yes, you can carry the war into their camp and you get your dismissal.
I shall have done my duty towards the public, towards the community, I who am called its enemy.
But towards your family, Thomas? Towards your own home? Do you think that is doing your duty towards those you have to provide for?
I don't always think of us first, Mother.
Oh, it's easy for you to talk. You are able to shift for yourself if need be. But remember the girls, Thomas, and think a little of yourself too, and me.
I think you're out of your senses, Catherine. If I were to be such a miserable coward as to go on my knees to Peter and their damn crew, do you suppose I should ever know an hour's peace of mind all my life afterwards?
You will find yourself again without the means of subsistence, with no income to count upon. I should think we have had enough of that in the old days. Remember, Thomas, think what that means.
And this is what this slavery can bring upon a free, honourable man. Isn't it horrible, Catherine?
Yes, it is sinful to treat you so. It is perfectly true. But one has to put up with so much injustice in this world. There are the girls, Thomas. Look at them. What is to become of them? Oh, no, you could never have the heart.
Iliff and Morton have come in while she was speaking with their school books in their hands.
The girls... No, even if the whole world goes to pieces, I will never bow my neck to this yokel.
Thomas, what are you going to do?
I mean to have the right to look my daughters in the face when they are old enough to understand this.
Goes into his room.
God help us all.
The boys look on in amazement. Petra signs to them not to speak. Act 3. The editorial office of the People's Messenger. The entrance door is on the left-hand side of the brick wall. On the right-hand side is another door with glass panels through which the printing room can be seen. Another door in the right-hand wall. In the middle of the room is a large table covered with papers, newspapers, and books. The room is dingy and uncomfortable. The furniture is old, the chairs stained and torn. In the printing room, the compositors are seen at work, and a printer is working a hand press. Hofstad is sitting at the desk writing. Billing comes in from the right with Dr. Stockmann's manuscript in his hand.
Well, I must say.
Have you read it through?
Yes, indeed I have.
Don't you think the doctor hits them pretty hard?
Hard. He's crushing. As I sat there reading this, I almost seemed to see a revolution in being.
Shh. Speak so that Aslaxon cannot hear you.
Aslaxon is a chicken-hearted chap, a coward. There is nothing of the man in him. But this time, you will insist on your own way, won't you? You will put the doctor's article in?
Yes, and if the mayor doesn't like it...
That would be a nuisance.
Well, fortunately, we can turn the situation to good account, whatever happens. If the mayor will not fall in with the doctor's project, he will have all the small tradesmen down on him, on her. The whole of the Householders Association. And if she does fall in with it, she will fall out with the whole crowd of shareholders in the baths, who have up till now been her most valuable supporters.
Yes, because they will certainly have to fork out a pretty penny.
Yes, you may be sure they will. And in this way, the ring will be broken up, you see? And then in every issue of the paper, we will enlighten the public on the mayor's incapability and make it clear that all the positions of trust in the town, the whole control of municipal affairs, ought to be put into the hands of the Liberals.
I see it coming. I see it coming. We are on the threshold of a revolution.
A knock is heard at the door.
Shh. Come in.
Dr. Stockmann comes in by the street door. Hofstad goes to meet him.
Ah, it's you, Doctor.
You may set to work and print it, Mr. Hofstad.
Has it come to that?
Hurrah!
Yes, print away. It has come to that. Now, they must take what they get. There's going to be a fight in the town, Mr. Billing. This article is only a beginning. I've already got 4 or 5 more sketched out in my head. Oh, where's Aslaxon?
Aslaxon, just come here for a minute.
4 or 5 more articles, did you say, on the same subject?
Oh, no. Far from it, my dear fellow. No. They're about quite another matter. But they all spring from the question of the water supply. One thing leads to another, you know. It's like beginning to pull down an old house.
Upon my soul, it's true. You find you're not done till you've pulled all the old rubbish down.
Pulled down? You're not thinking of putting down the bath, surely, Doctor?
Far from it. Don't be afraid.
No, we meant something quite different. Well, what do you think of my article, Mr. Hofstad?
I think it is simply a masterpiece.
Do you really think so?
It is so clear and intelligible. One need have no special knowledge to understand the bearing of it. You will have every enlightened man on your side.
And every prudent man too, I hope.
The prudent and the imprudent, almost the whole town.
In that case, we may venture to print it?
I should think so.
We will put it in tomorrow morning.
Oh, of course, you must not lose a single day. What I wanted to ask you, Mr. Aslaxon, was if you would supervise the printing of it yourself.
With pleasure.
Take care of it as if it were a treasure. Yeah, no misprints. Every word is important. I will look in again a little later. Perhaps you'll be able to let me see a proof. I can't tell you how eager I am to see it in print and to have it submitted to the judgment of my intelligent fellow townsmen. I cannot imagine what I've gone through today. I have been threatened first with one thing and then another. They have tried to rob me of my most elementary rights as a man.
What?
They have tried to degrade me, to make a coward of me, to force me to put personal interests before my most sacred convictions.
That is too much.
You mustn't be surprised at anything from that quarter.
Well, they'll get the worst of it. I shall consider the People's Messenger my sheet anchor now, and every single day I will bombard them with one article after another like bombshells.
Yes, but...
Hurrah, it's war!
I shall crush them. I shall break down all their defences before the eyes of the honest public. That is what I shall do.
Yes, but moderation, Doctor. Doctor, proceed with moderation.
Not a bit of it. Don't spare the dynamite.
Because it is not merely a question of water supply and drains now, you know. No. It is the whole of our social life that we have got to purify and disinfect.
Spoken like a deliverer.
Endless vistas have opened themselves to my mind's eye today. I cannot see it all quite clearly yet, but I shall in time. Young and vigorous standard bearers, those are what we need and must seek, my friends. We must have new men in command at all our outposts.
Here, here.
We only need to stand by one another. The revolution will be launched like a ship that runs smoothly off the stocks. Yet, don't you think so?
For my part, I think we now have a prospect of getting the municipal authority into the hands where it should lie.
And if only we proceed with moderation, I cannot imagine that there will be any risk.
Oh, who cares? What the devil cares whether there's any risk or not? You know, what I'm doing, I am doing in the name of truth and for the sake of my conscience.
You are a man who deserves to be supported, Doctor.
Yes, there's no denying that the doctor is a true friend to the town, a real friend to the community that he is.
Take my word for it, Isluxon. Dr. Stockmann is a friend of the people.
I fancy the Householders Association will make use of that expression before long.
Oh, thank you, my dear friends. Oh, it's very refreshing for me to hear you say that. Well, my brother or sister called me something quite different. By Jove, she shall have it back with interest. Oh, keep a very careful eye on the manuscript, Isluxon, and don't for worlds leave out any of my notes for exclamation. Rather, put one or two more in. Capital, capital. Well, goodbye for the present. Yeah, goodbye.
They show him to the door and bow him out.
He may prove an invaluably useful man to us.
Yes, as long as he confines himself to this matter of the baths. If he goes farther afield, I don't think it would be advisable to follow him.
That all depends.
You are so infernally timid, Isluxon.
Timid? Oh, yes. Well, it is a question of the local authorities. It is a lesson that I have learned in the school of experience, let me tell you. Try me on higher politics, in matters that concern the government itself, and then you will see if I'm timid.
No, you aren't, I admit, but this is simply contradicting yourself.
I am a man of conscience, and that is the whole matter. And if you attack the government, well, you don't do the community any harm anyway. Those fellows pay no attention to attacks, you see. They just go on just as they are in spite of them. But local authorities are different. They can be turned out. And then perhaps you may get some ignorant lot into office who may do irreparable damage to the householders and everybody else.
But what of the education of citizens by self-government? Don't you attach any importance to that?
When a man has interests of his own to protect, he cannot think of everything.
Well, then I hope I shall never have interests of my own to protect.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, Mr. Sheriff Stensgaard was a predecessor at that editorial desk.
Bah, that turncoat.
I am not a weathercock and never will be.
A politician should never be too certain of anything, Mr. Hofstad. And as for you, Mr. Billing, I should think it is time for you to be taking in a reef or two in your sails, saying that you are applying for the post of secretary to the bench.
I?
Are you, Billing?
Well, yes, but you must clearly understand I'm only doing it to annoy the bigwigs.
Anyhow, it is no business of mine. No, but if I am going to be accused of timidity and of inconsistency in my principles, this is what I want to point out. My political past is an open book. I have never changed, except perhaps to become a little more moderate, you see. My heart is still with the people, but I don't deny that my reason has a certain bias towards the authorities, the local ones, I say.
Goes into the printing room.
Why don't we try to get rid of him, Hofstad?
Do you know anyone else who will advance the money for our paper and printing bill?
It is an infernal nuisance that we don't possess some capital to trade on.
Yes, if only.
Suppose you were to apply to Dr. Stockmann.
What is the use? He's got nothing.
No, but he has got old Morton Kill. The Badger, as they call him.
And are you so sure that he has got anything?
Good Lord, of course he has. And some of it must come to the Stockmans. Most probably he will do something for the children, at all events.
Are you counting on that?
Counting on it? Of course, I'm not counting on anything.
That's right. And you shouldn't count on the secretaryship to the bench either. If I were you, I can assure you, you won't get it.
Do you think I'm not aware of that? My object is precisely not to get it. A slight of that kind stimulates a woman's fighting power, and I am sure one needs that badly enough in a hole-and-corner place like this, where it is so seldom anything happens to stir one up.
Quite so. Quite so.
I shall be heard of yet. Now I shall go and write the appeal to the Householders Association.
Goes into the room on the right.
That's it, is it?
A knock is heard.
Come in.
Petra comes in by the outer door. Hofstad gets up.
What, you? Here?
Yes, forgive me.
Oh, well, won't you sit down?
No, thank you. I must go again in a moment.
Have you come with a message from your father by any chance?
No, I've come on my own account. Here's the English story.
Why have you brought it back?
Because I'm not going to translate it.
But you promised.
Yes, but I had not read it. I don't suppose that you have either.
No, you know quite well that I don't understand English, but...
Quite so. That is why I wanted to tell you that you must find something else. You can't use this for the People's Messenger.
Why not?
Because it conflicts with all your opinions.
Oh.
The burden of this story is that there is a supernatural power that looks after the so-called good people in this world and makes everything happen for the best in their case, while all the so-called bad people are punished.
Well, that's just what our readers want.
And are you going to be the one to give it to them? For myself, I don't believe a word of it. You know quite well that things like that don't happen in reality.
You are perfectly right. But an editor cannot always act as he would prefer. He is often obliged to bow to the wishes of the public in unimportant matters. Politics are the most important thing in life, for a newspaper anyway. And if I want to carry my public with me on the path that leads to liberty and progress, I must not frighten them away. If they find a moral tale of this sort in the serial at the bottom of the page, they will be all the more ready to read what is printed above it. They feel more secure.
For shame! You would never go and set a snare like that for your readers.
Well, thank you for having such a good opinion of me. No, as a matter of fact, that is Billings' idea, not mine.
Billings?
Yes, she propounded that theory here one day. And it is Billing who was so anxious to have that story in the paper. I don't know anything about the book.
How can Billing with her emancipated views?
Oh, Billing is a many-sided woman. She is applying for the post of secretary to the bench too, I hear.
I don't believe it, Mr. Hofstad. How could she possibly bring herself to do such a thing?
Does it really surprise you?
Yes. I mean, perhaps not.
We journalists are not worth much, Miss Stockmann.
In the ordinary affairs of everyday life, perhaps I can understand that. But now when you've taken such a weighty matter in hand.
This matter of your father's, you mean?
Exactly. It seems to me that now you must feel that you're a man worth more than most.
Yes, today I do feel something of that sort.
It's a splendid vocation that you've chosen to smooth the way for the march of unappreciated truths and new and courageous lines of thought. If it were nothing more than because you stand fearlessly in the open and take up the cause of an injured man.
Especially when that injured man is...
When that man is so upright and so honest, you mean?
Especially when he is your father, I meant.
That?
Yes, Petra. Ms. Petra.
Is that it? That's first and foremost with you, not the truth. Mr. Hofstad, I shall never trust you in anything ever again.
Can you really take it so amiss in me that it is mostly for your sake?
What I'm angry with you for is for not having been honest with my father. You talk to him as if truth and the good of the community were what lay nearest to your heart. You've made fools of both me and my father. You're not the man you made yourself out to be.
You ought not speak so bitterly, Miss Petra, least of all now.
Why not now?
Because your father cannot do without my help.
Are you that sort of man?
No, I am not. This came upon me unexpectedly. You must believe that.
I know what to believe. Goodbye.
Coming from the printing room hurriedly and with an air of mystery.
Damnation, Hofstad. Oh, this is awkward.
There's the book. You must give it to someone else.
But, Miss Stockmann.
Goodbye.
Goes out.
I say, Mr. Hofstad.
Well, what is it?
Mayor is outside in the printing room.
The mayor, did you say?
Yes. She wants to speak to you. She came in the back door. Didn't want to be seen. You understand?
What does she want? Wait a bit. I will go myself.
Goes to the door of the printing room, opens it, bows, and invites Peta Stockmann in.
Just see, Aslaxon, that no one...
Quite so.
You did not expect to see me here, Mr. Hofstad?
No, I confess I did not.
And here I come without any notice to take up your time.
By all means, Mayor, I am at your service. Won't you sit down?
Thank you. I have had an extremely annoying experience today, Mr. Hofstad.
Really? Ah, well, I expect with all the various business you have to attend to.
The medical officer of the baths is responsible for what happened today.
Indeed. The doctor?
He has addressed a kind of report to the baths committee on the subject of certain supposed defects in the baths.
Has he indeed?
Yes, has he not told you? I thought he said that.
Yes, it is true. He did mention something about that.
Coming from the printing room.
I ought to have that copy.
There it is on the desk.
Right.
But look there, that is the thing I was speaking of.
Yes, that is the doctor's article, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, is that what you were speaking about?
Yes. So what do you think of it?
Oh, I am only a layman, and I only have taken a very cursory glance at it.
But you're going to print it?
I cannot very well refuse a distinguished man.
I have nothing to do with the editing of the paper, Mayor.
I understand.
Mm-hmm. I merely print what is put into my hand.
Quite.
Mm-hmm. So I must...
towards the printing room.
No, but wait a moment, Mr. Laxon. You will allow me, Mr. Hofstad?
If you please.
You are a discreet and thoughtful man, Mr. Laxon.
I'm delighted to hear you think so.
And a man of very considerable influence.
Are you chiefly among the small tradesmen?
The small taxpayers are the majority, here as everywhere else.
That is true.
And I have no doubt you know the general trend of opinion among them, don't you?
Yes, I think I may say I do, Mayor.
Yes, well, since there's such a praiseworthy spirit of self-sacrifice among the less wealthy citizens of our town.
What?
Self-sacrifice?
It is pleasing evidence of a public-spirited feeling, extremely pleasing evidence. I might almost say I hardly expected it, but you have a closer knowledge of public opinion than I. And indeed, it is no small sacrifice that the town is going to make.
The town?
But I don't understand. Is it the baths?
At a provincial estimate, the alterations that the medical officer asserts to be desirable will cost somewhere about £20,000.
Well, that is a lot of money, but...
Oh, of course, it will be necessary to raise a municipal loan.
Surely you never mean that the town must pay.
You mean that it must come out of the municipal funds, out of the ill-filled pockets of the small tradesmen?
Well, my dear Laxon, where else is the money to come from?
Well, the gentleman who owned the baths ought to provide that.
Oh, the proprietors of the baths are not in a position to incur any further expense.
Is that absolutely certain?
I have satisfied myself that it is so. If the town wants these, very extensive alterations, it will have to pay them.
But damn it all, beg your pardon, this is quite another matter, Mr. Hofstad.
It is indeed.
The most fatal part of it is that we shall be obliged to shut the baths for a couple of years.
Shut them. Shut them all together.
For 2 years?
Yes, the work will take as long as that, at least.
Well, I'm damned if he'll stand with that, but what are we householders to live upon in the meantime?
Unfortunately, that is an extremely difficult question to answer, Mr. Alaxon. But what would you have us do? Do you suppose we shall have a single visitor in the town if we go about proclaiming that our water is polluted, that we are living over a plague spot, that the entire town is...
And the whole thing is merely imagination.
With the best will in the world, I have not been able to come to any other conclusion.
Well, then I must say it is absolutely unjustifiable of Dr. Stockmann. I beg your pardon there.
What you say is lamentably true, Mr. Alaxon. My brother has unfortunately always been a headstrong man.
After this, do you mean to give him your support, Mr. Hofstad?
Can you suppose for a moment that
I have drawn up a short resume of the situation as it appears from a reasonable man's point of view. In it, I have indicated how certain possible defects might suitably be remedied without outrunning the resources of the Baths Committee.
Have you got it with you, Mayor?
Oh yes, I brought it with me in case.
Good Lord, there he is.
Who, my brother?
Where?
He's just come through the printing room.
Oh, ooh, how unlucky. I don't want to meet him here, and I still have several things to speak to you about.
Go in there for the present.
But
you will only find billing in there.
Quick, baby, he's just coming.
Oh yes, okay, yes, very well. But you will get rid of him quickly.
Goes out through the door on the right.
Pretend to be doing something, Aslaxon.
Aslaxon begins foraging among a heap of newspapers that are lying on a chair. Coming in from the printing room.
Here I am again.
Already, Doctor. Hurry up with what we were speaking about, Aslaxon. We are very pressed for time today. No
proof for me to see yet, I hear.
You couldn't expect it yet, Doctor.
Oh, no, yeah, but I am impatient, as you can understand. I shall not know a moment's peace of mind until I see it in print.
It will take a good while yet, won't it, Aslaxon?
Yes, I'm almost afraid it will.
All right, my dear friends, I'll come back. I do not mind coming back twice if necessary. A matter of such great importance, welfare of the town at stake. Yeah. Look here, there is one thing more that I want to speak to you about.
Excuse me, but could it not wait until some other time?
I can tell you in half a dozen words. When my article is read tomorrow, and it is realized that I have been quietly working the whole winter for the welfare of the town.
Yes, but...
Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Well, this is the point. When this reaches them and sounds in their ears like a summons to take the town's affairs into their own hands for the future.
Doctor, I won't conceal from you the fact...
I knew there was something, but I won't hear a word of it. If anything of that sort is being set on foot...
Of what sort?
Well, whatever it is, whether it's a demonstration in my honor or a banquet, whatever it is, you must promise me solemnly and faithfully to put a stop to it. You too, Mr. Aslaxon, do you understand?
You must forgive me, Doctor, but sooner or later we must tell you the truth.
He is interrupted by the entrance of Mrs. Stockmann, who comes in from the street door.
Just as I thought.
You too, Mrs. Stockmann.
What on earth do you want here, Catherine?
I should think you know very well what I want. You must not be offended at my coming to fetch my husband. I'm a mother of 3 children, you know.
Oh, nonsense. We know all about that.
Well, one would not give you credit for much thought for your wife and children today. If you had had that, you would have not gone and dragged us all into misfortune.
Oh, are you out of your senses, Catherine? Because a man has a wife and children, is he not allowed to proclaim the truth? Is he not to be allowed to do a service to his native town?
Yes, Thomas, in reason.
That's just what I say, moderation in everything.
And that is why you wrong us, Mr. Halstead, in enticing my husband away from his home and making a dupe of him in all of this.
I certainly am not making a dupe of anyone.
Making a dupe of me? Do you suppose I should allow myself to be duped?
I know quite well you have more brains than anyone in the town, but you are extremely easily duped, Thomas. Please do realize that if he loses his post at the baths if you print what he has written.
What?
Look here, Doctor.
Just let them try. No, they'll take good care not to. I have got the compact majority behind me, let me tell you.
That is the worst of it. You don't having any such horrid thing behind you.
Oh, rubbish, Catherine. How can you be so afraid when I'm so confident and happy? Truth and the people will win the fight, you may be certain. I see the whole of the broad-minded middle class marching like a victorious army. What the deuce is that?
Good Lord.
Here we have the topmost pinnacle of authority.
Takes the mayor's official hat carefully between his fingertips and holds it up in the air.
The mayor's hat.
And here is the staff of office too. How in the name of...
Well, you see...
Ah, I understand. She's been here trying to talk you over. Ha! She's made a mistake there. And as soon as she caught sight of me in the printing room... Here, did she run away, Mr. Aslaskin?
Yes, he ran away, Doctor.
Ran away without the stick or fiddlesticks. Peter doesn't run away and leave her belongings behind her, but what the deuce have you done with her? Ah, in there, of course. Now you shall see, Catherine.
Thomas, please don't.
Don't be rash, Doctor.
Dr. Stockmann has put on the mayor's hat and taken his stick in his hand. He goes up to the door, opens it, and stands with his hands to his hat at the salute. Peter Stockmann comes in, red with anger. Billing follows her.
It's tomfoolery, you mean?
Oh, be respectful, my good Peter. I am the chief authority in the town now.
Really, Thomas?
Give me my hat and stick.
If you are a chief constable, let me tell you that I am the mayor. I am the master of the whole town.
Take off my hat. You know, remember, it is part of an official uniform.
No! Do you think the newly awakened lion-hearted people are going to be frightened by an official hat? There's going to be a revolution in the town tomorrow, let me tell you. You thought you could turn me out, but now I shall turn you out. Turn you out of all your various offices. Do you think I cannot? Yeah? Listen to me. I have triumphant social forces behind me. Hofstadt and Billing will thunder in the people's messenger, and Aslaxton will take the field at the head of the whole Householders Association.
That I won't, Doctor.
Of course you will.
May I ask then if Mr. Hofstadt intends to join this agitation?
No, Mr. Mayor.
No, Mr. Hofstad is not such a fool as to go and ruin his paper and himself for the sake of an imaginary grievance.
What?
You have represented your case in a false light, Doctor, and therefore I am unable to give you my support.
And after what the mayor was so kind as to tell me just now,
Leave that to me. Only print my article. I am quite capable of defending it.
I'm not going to print it. I dare not print it.
You dare not? What nonsense. You are the editor, and an editor controls his paper, I suppose.
No, it is the subscribers, Doctor.
Fortunately.
It is public opinion, the enlightened public, householders and people of that kind who control the newspapers.
And I have all these influences against me?
Yes, you have. And it would mean the absolute ruin of the community if your article were to appear.
Indeed.
My hat and stick, please.
Dr. Stockmann takes off the hat and lays it on the table with the stick. Peter Stockmann takes them up.
Your authority as mayor has come to an end.
We have not got to the end yet. And it is quite impossible for you to print my article in the People's Messenger.
quite impossible, out of regard for your family as well.
You need not concern yourself about his family, Mr. Hofstad.
It will be sufficient for the guidance of the public if this appears. It's an official statement. May I trouble you?
Certainly, I will see that it is printed.
Not mine. Do you imagine that you can silence me and stifle the truth? You will not find it so easy as you suppose. Mr. Aslaxon, kindly take my manuscript at once and print it as a pamphlet. At my expense, I will have 400 copies. No, 500 or 600.
If you offered me its weight in gold, I could not lend my press for any such purpose. So it would be flying in the face of public opinion. You will not get it printed anywhere in town.
Give it me back.
Here it is.
It shall be made public all the same. I will read it out at a mass meeting of the townspeople. All my fellow citizens shall hear the voice of truth.
You will not find any public body in town that will give you the use of their hall for such a purpose.
Not a single one, I am certain.
No, I'm damned if you will find one.
It's too shameful. Why should everyone turn against you like that?
I'll tell you why. It is because all of the men in this town are like you. They all think of nothing but their families and never of the community.
Then I will show them. I am going to stand by you, Thomas.
Bravely said, Catherine. It shall be made public. If I can't hire a hall, I shall hire a drum and parade the town with it and read it at every street corner.
You are surely not as such an arrant fool as that.
Yes, I am.
You won't find a single man in the whole town to go with you.
No, I'm damned if you will.
Don't give in, Thomas. I will tell the girls to go with you.
Ah, that's a splendid idea.
Morton will be delighted, and Eileth will do whatever he does.
Yes, and Petra. And you too, Catherine.
No, I won't do that, but I will stand at the window and watch you.
Oh, thank you, my dear. Now, I'm going to see whether a pack of cowards can succeed in gagging a patriot who wants to purify society.
He and his wife go out by the street door.
Now, he has sent her out of her senses too. I mean, just what?
End of Act 3.
There we go. Let's have a little quick 5-minute break. And just so that people who are in the meeting now know, you can also tune in on YouTube as well. But yeah, or just stay with us in the room here. I'll put the info in the chat room. Talk amongst yourselves. Feel free to talk to each other. Audience members can come alive again. Actors, talk to each other.
Hannah?
Yeah.
Do we have assigned people to read the crowd stuff?
Yes, they're
Okay.
all our citizens are. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. There you go. All right, I'm going to take a quick wee break.
We got a very, very short break. Oh.
David, just so you know, you're not on mute.
I'm not on at all.
We can
I'm not
still
on
hear
mute.
you. Hello, Davy.
Hello, dear.
Sorry, I hope that was long enough. I'm very conscious of keeping the running time to as sort of short as possible.
Sure.
Yeah. Hello. Hello, some audience members.
Yeah, Carol. It's fantastic. I'm just loving it.
Amazing.
It's really great. I don't know this play well at all. I'm just riveted.
Ah,
fantastic. Well done, everybody. It's great. It's really off the page.
It's really good. I'm totally enjoying it. And hi to some people I know. It's great. Fantastic.
Is that Pia Bowman?
Pia Bowman. Yeah.
Pia Bowman, sorry. Hiya.
Hi. So no, I'm totally into it. And what I really appreciated, and I don't know the woman who gave the introduction, but the introduction was really fantastic and gave such insight. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic British theatre director, and yeah, I knew that she'd have a great understanding of Ibsen and of that time and its relevance now, and I thought she'd be the perfect person.
It really is.
Yeah. Oh, great. Just
You all enjoying it?
Yes.
Are you enjoying it? Yeah.
Mm.
There's ease. Everything is. There's a real ease to it. It doesn't look like there's any tension. You know, all the work has been done, and there's just such an ease. It's so relaxed. It's really easy to listen to. I'm really enjoying.
Oh, fab.
Right.
Oh.
And you folks are so terrific.
I want to say that during the 1950s, I knew people. May I say that during the 1950s, I knew people like David's character so well. It felt like they were all coming back to haunt me.
Yeah.
Hi, Anna. This is it's really good to kind of see you working like so far away, and such a great performance by everybody. Really good. Great to see. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, you take care, guys.
Yeah, it's nice to have people from all over the world in one room.
Yeah.
We have to keep doing these things.
What's that?
We have to keep doing these things. We can't just. This is like a new thing that has bubbled up, and it's just so great for people to be reading plays together. It's so exciting. Really is. It's lovely.
No.
I just like to
really. I mean,
can I just say hello to David from Maine?
Hello, Patty.
I am watching and enjoying it very much.
Oh, wow.
Oh, lots of love.
Great to see you. And the whole play is so wonderful. I didn't expect it to be funny. It's made me laugh several times.
Well, when Ibsen wrote it, he wrote to his publisher. He said, I don't know whether to call it a comedy or a straight drama. So he didn't know either. There are funny parts in it, but it's got some serious subject matter, and it feels very relevant today as well.
Absolutely, man. My husband said that during that decade when it was written was when they were naming diseases such as typhus and things like that that hadn't been known before. So it's very timely.
Typhoid was 1880, and this was, I think, 82, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say hi to David.
Hi, David.
Hi. Hi. Oh, Rich. Very nice to see you, Rich.
Nice to
Beautiful.
see you. I quite a little bit in the beginning. But I was a hunter-gatherer.
We had to go pick up our groceries. You know, we're sheltering in place here.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take any more of your time, but thank you. It's lovely to see you.
It's so lovely to hear from the audience. Thank you for turning on your cameras and saying hello.
David, say hi to Chloe.
An audience in Maine. Great.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
You've got to let that dog out before she barks.
If actors are back, maybe if audience members, if you can again turn off your cameras and turn off your audio, and we will get started. Yeah, so moving just for the actors, yeah, obviously there's a lot of chanting at one point. Let's really go for it. But at the same time, if we find that with the cameras and the audio that it doesn't quite work or it gets a bit messy, just be aware of when people are coming in, but let's go for it.
I haven't got anything to ring for a bell, foolishly. Just rattle a thingy. Okay?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got something to rattle. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. Does anyone else need anything before we start? No? Brilliant.
No, I need to switch off.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's start.
Act 4. A big old-fashioned room in Captain Horster's house. At the back, folding doors, which are standing open, lead to an anteroom. 3 windows in the left-hand wall. In the middle of the opposite wall, a platform has been erected. On this is a small table with 2 candles, a water bottle and glass, and a bell. The room is lit by lamps placed between the windows. The room is nearly filled with a crowd of townspeople of all sorts, a few women and schoolboys being amongst them. People are still streaming in from the back, and the room is soon filled. Hello, Lamstad, you here too?
I go to every public meeting.
Brought your whistle too, I expect?
I should think so, haven't you?
Rather. And old Evanson said he was going to bring a cow horn.
Good old Everson.
Tell me what's going on here tonight.
Dr. Stockmann is going to deliver an address attacking the mayor.
But the mayor is his sister.
That doesn't matter. Dr. Stockmann's not the chap to be afraid.
But he is in the wrong. It said so in the People's Messenger.
Yes, I expect he must be in the wrong this time, because neither the Householders Association nor the Citizens Club would lend him their hall for the meeting.
Couldn't even get the loan of the hall at the Baths.
No, I should think not.
I said, who are we to back up in this?
Watch the Slackson and do as he does.
Excuse me, gentlemen, do you mind letting me through? I am reporting for the People's Messenger. Thank you very much.
Who is that?
Don't you know? It's Billing. She writes for Aslasken's paper.
Captain Horster brings in Mrs. Stockmann and Petra through the door on the right. Iliff and Morton follow them in.
I thought you might all sit here. Can slip out easily from here if things get too lively.
You think there will be a disturbance?
One can never tell with such a crowd. But sit down and don't be uneasy.
It was extremely kind of you to offer my husband the room.
Well, if nobody else would.
And it was a plucky thing to do, Captain Horster.
Oh, it's not such a great matter as all that.
Hofstad and Aslaxon make their way through the crowd.
Aslaxon?
Has the doctor not come yet?
He's waiting in the next room.
Oh, look, here comes the mayor.
Yes, I'm damned if she hasn't come at all. After all.
Peter Stockmann makes her way gradually through the crowd, bows courteously, and takes up a position by the wall on the left. Shortly afterwards, Dr. Stockmann comes in by the right-hand door. He is dressed in a black frock coat with a white tie. There's a little feeble applause, which is hushed down. Silence is obtained.
How do you feel, Catherine?
All right. Be sure not to lose your temper.
I know how to control myself.
He steps on.
It is 1:15, so I'll begin.
I think we ought to elect a chairman.
No, it is quite unnecessary.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I certainly think too that we ought to have a chat.
But I have called this meeting to deliver a lecture, Peter.
Dr. Stockmann's lecture may possibly lead to a considerable conflict of opinion?
Chairman!
We want a chairman. A chairman.
The general wish of the meeting seems to be that a chairman should be elected.
Very well, let the meeting have its way.
Will the mayor be good enough to undertake the task?
Bravo!
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 For various reasons, which you will easily understand, I must beg to be excused. But fortunately, we have amongst us a man who I think will be acceptable to you all. I refer to the president of the Householders Association, Mr. Alaxon.
Bravo.
Well, since my fellow citizens choose to entrust me with this duty, I cannot refuse.
Mr. Alaxon was elected with enthusiasm.
And now, as I am in this position, I should like to say a few brief words. I'm a quiet and peaceable man who believes in discreet moderation and in moderate discretion. All my friends can bear witness to that.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right, Miss Laxon.
I have learned in the school of life and the school of experience that moderation is the most valuable citizen, the most valuable virtue a citizen can possess.
Hear, hear.
And moreover, that discretion and moderation are what enable a man to be most service to his community. I would therefore suggest to our esteemed fellow citizen who has called this meeting that he should strive to keep strictly within the bounds of moderation.
3 cheers for the Moderation Society.
No interruptions, gentlemen, please. Does anyone wish to make any remarks?
Mr. Chairman.
The mayor will address the meeting.
In consideration of the close relationship in which, as you all know, I stand to the present medical officer of the baths, I should have preferred not to speak at this meeting. But my official position with regard to the baths and my solicitude for the vital interests of the town compel me to bring forward a motion. I venture to presume that there is not a single one of our citizens present who considers it desirable that unreliable and exaggerated accounts of the sanitary condition of the baths and the town should be spread abroad.
No.
Certainly not.
Certainly not. We protest against
No.
Right. Therefore, I should like to propose that the meeting should not permit the medical officer either to read or to comment on his proposed lecture.
Not permit? What the devil? Very well, go ahead.
In my communication to the People's Messenger, I have put the essential facts before the public in such a way that every fair-minded citizen can easily form his own opinion. From it, you will see that the main result of the medical officer's proposals, apart from their constituting a vote of censure on the leading men of the town, would be to saddle the ratepayers with an unnecessary expenditure of at least some thousands of pounds.
Silence, please, gentlemen.
No.
I beg to support the mayor's motion. I quite agree with him that there is something behind this agitation started by the doctor. He talks about the bath, but it is a revolution he is aiming at. No one doubts the honesty of the doctor's intention. No one will suggest that there can be any two opinions as to that. I myself am a believer in self-government for the people, provided that it does not fall too heavily on the ratepayers. But that would be the case here.
Yes.
And that is why I will see Dr. Stockmann damned, I beg your pardon, before I go with him on this matter. You can pay too dearly for a thing sometimes, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yes, well said.
I too feel called upon to explain my position. Dr. Stockmann's agitation appeared to be gaining a certain amount of sympathy at first, so I supported it as impartially as I could. But we had reason to suspect that we had allowed ourselves to be misled by the misrepresentation of the state of affairs.
Misrepresentation?
Well, let us say a not entirely trustworthy representation. The mayor's statement has proved that. I hope no one here has any doubt as to my liberal principles. The attitude of the people's messenger towards important political questions is well known to everyone. But the advice of experienced and thoughtful men has convinced me that in purely local matters, a newspaper ought to proceed with a certain caution.
I entirely agree with the speaker.
Now, what is an editor's first and most obvious duty? Is it not to work in harmony with his readers? Has he not received a sort of tacit mandate to work persistently and assiduously for the welfare of those whose opinions he represents? Or is it possible that I am mistaken in that?
No.
Oh, you...
Quite right.
No.
Now, it has cost me a severe struggle to break with a man whose house I have lately been a frequent guest, a man who till today has been able to pride himself on the undivided goodwill of his fellow citizens, a man whose only, or at all events, whose essential failing is that he is swayed by his heart rather than his head.
Yeah.
Bravo, Stockmann.
Bravo.
But my duty to the community obliged me to break with him. And there is another consideration that impels me to oppose him, and, as far as possible, to arrest him on the perilous course he has adopted. That is consideration for his family.
Please stick to the water supply and drainage.
Consideration, I repeat, for his wife and his children, for whom he has made no provision.
Mother, is that us?
I will now put the mayor's proposition to the vote.
There is no necessity. Tonight I have no intention of dealing with all that filth down at the baths, no. I have something quite different to say to you.
Sorry, what?
I am a ratepayer, and therefore I have a right to speak too. And my entire firm opinion is
Be quiet.
is
Let him out.
That's enough.
Dr. Stockmann will address the meeting.
I should like to have seen anyone a few days ago dare to attempt to silence me as has been done tonight. I would have defended my sacred rights as a man. But now it is all one to me. I have something of even weightier importance to say to you.
The crowd presses nearer to him, Morton, Kill, and conspicuous among them.
I have thought a great deal these last few days, pondered over such a variety of things that in the end my head seemed too full to hold them. But I got them clear in my mind at last, and I saw the whole situation lucidly. And that is why I'm standing here tonight. I have a great revelation to make to you, my fellow citizen. I will impart to you a discovery of a far wider scope than the trifling matter that our water supply is poisoned and our medicinal baths are standing on pestiferous soil.
Don't talk about
the bath. We don't hear you. None of that.
I've already told you that I want to speak about the discovery that all the sources of our moral life are poisoned and that the whole fabric of our civic community is founded on the pestiferous soil of falsehood.
What?
What's that? What did he say?
What did he say?
What? I call the
Such an
speaker.
insinuation. Such an insinuation.
I have always called the speaker to moderate his language.
I have always loved my native town. I was not old when I went away from here, and exile, longing, and memories cast, as it were, an additional halo over both the town and its inhabitants. And there I stayed for many years in a horrible hole far away up north. And that I hatched, and what I hatched was the plans for these baths. And then, when fate at last decreed for me the greatest happiness of coming home again, I assure you, I thought I had nothing more in the world to wish for. Or rather, there was one thing I wished for, and that was to be able to be of service to my native town and the good of the community.
You chose a strange way of doing it.
So, with my eyes blinded to the real facts, I revelled in happiness. But yesterday afternoon, The eyes of my mind were opened wide, and the first thing I realized was the colossal stupidity of the authorities.
By virtue of my authority.
It is a petty thing to catch me up on a word, Mr. Aslaksen. What I mean is only that I got scent of the unbelievable piggishness our leading men have been responsible for down at the baths. I've had enough of such people. They are like billy goats on a young plantation. They do mischief everywhere. They stand in a free man's way, whichever way he turns, and what I should like best would be to see them exterminated like any other vermin.
Whoa!
Whoa!
Whoa! Chairman, can we allow such expressions to pass? I ask you.
I cannot understand how it is that I have only now acquired a clear conception of what these gentry are, when I had almost daily before my eyes in this town such an excellent specimen of them. My sister, slow-witted and hidebound in prejudice.
Isn't me he's talking about? My name's Peterson. All right, but devil take me if I
drunken man.
Who was that person?
Proceed, Doctor, but please strive to be moderate in your language.
Very well, gentlemen, I will say no more about our leading men. And if anyone imagines from what I've just said that my object is to attack these people this evening, he is absolutely wide of the mark. I cherish the comforting conviction that these parasites, all these venerable relics of a dying school of thought, are most admirably paving the way for their own extinction. They need no doctor's help to hasten their end. Nor is it folk of that kind who constitute the most pressing danger to the community. It is not they who are the most instrumental in poisoning the sources of our moral life and infecting the ground on which we stand. It is not they who are the most dangerous enemies of truth and freedom amongst us.
Who then?
Who then?
Who?
Names.
Names.
Depend on it. I shall name them. That is precisely the great discovery I made yesterday. The most dangerous enemy of truth and freedom amongst us is the compact majority. Yes, the damned compact liberal majority. That is it. Now you know.
No.
Hey.
Down.
Really?
Some of the older men among the crowd exchange stolen glances and seem to be enjoying themselves. Mrs. Stockmann gets up looking anxious. Iliff and Morton advance threateningly upon some schoolboys who are playing pranks. Aslaksen rings his bell and begs for silence. At last, quiet is restored.
As chairman, I call upon the speaker to withdraw the ill-considered expressions he has just used.
Never! It is the majority in our community that denies me my freedom and seeks to prevent my speaking the truth.
The majority always has right on its side.
And truth, too.
The majority never has right on its side. Never! That is one of these social lies against which an independent, intelligent man must wage war. Who is it that constitute the majority of the population in a country? Is it the clever folk or the stupid? I don't imagine you will dispute the fact that at present the stupid people are in absolutely overwhelming majority all the world over. But good Lord, you can never pretend that it is right that the stupid folk should govern.
Oh,
yeah, what's he saying about us?
I know,
Right.
but you cannot answer me. The majority has might on its side, unfortunately, but right it has not. I am in the right, I and a few other scattered individuals. I am thinking of the scattered few amongst us who have absorbed new and vigorous truths. Such men stand at the outpost so far ahead that the compact majority has not yet been able to come up with them, and there they are fighting for truths that are too newly born into the world of consciousness to have any considerable number of people on their side as yet.
So the doctor is a revolutionary now.
Good heavens, of course I am, Mr. Hofstad. I propose to raise a revolution against the lie that the majority has the monopoly on the truth. What sort of truths are they that the majority usually supports? They are truths that are of such advanced age that they are beginning to break up. A normally constituted truth lives, let us say, as a rule 17 or 18 or at most 20 years, but truths as aged as that are always worn frightfully thin, and nevertheless, it is only then that the majority recognizes them and recommends them to the community as a wholesome moral nourishment. These majority truths are like last year's cured meat, like rancid, tainted ham, and they are the origin of the moral scurvy that is rampant in our communities.
It appears to me that the speaker is wandering a long way from his subject.
I quite agree with the chairman.
Or have you gone clean out of your senses, Peter? I'm sticking as closely to my subject as I can. For my subject is precisely this, that it is the masses, the majority, this infernal compact majority that poisons the sources of our moral life and infects the ground we stand on.
And all this because the great broad-minded majority of the people is prudent enough to show deference only to well-ascertained and well-approved truths?
Oh, my good Mr. Hofstad, don't talk nonsense about well-ascertained truths. The truths of which the masses now approve are the very truths that the fighters at the outposts held to in the days of our grandfathers. We fighters at the outposts nowadays no longer approve of them, and I do not believe there is any other well-ascertained truth except this, that no community can live a healthy life if it is nourished only on old, marrowless truths.
But instead of standing there using vague generalities, it would be interesting if you would tell us what these old, marrowless truths are that we are so nourished on.
Hear, hear.
Oh, I could give you a whole string of such abominations, but to begin with, I will confine myself to one well-approved truth, which Mr. Hofstad and the People's Messenger and all the Messenger's supporters are nourished.
And that is?
That is the doctrine you've inherited from your forefathers and proclaim thoughtlessly far and wide, the doctrine that the public, the crowd, the masses are the essential part of the population, that they constitute the people, that the common folk, the ignorant and incomplete element in the community, have the same right to pronounce judgment and to approve, to direct and to govern as the isolated, intellectually superior personalities in it.
Well, damn me if I've ever said.
Citizens, take note of that.
Oh, so are we not the people then?
Only the superior folk are to govern, are they?
Turn the fellow up for talking such rubbish.
Out with him.
Oh, your horn, Evanson.
A horn is blown loudly amidst hisses and an angry uproar. Ah!
Be reasonable. Can't you stand the hearing the voice of truth? I don't in the least expect you to agree with me all at once, but I must say I did expect Mr. Hofstad to admit I was right when he recovered his composure a little. He claims to be a free thinker.
A free thinker?
Prove it, Dr. Stockmann. When have I said so in print?
No, confound it, you are right. You have never had the courage to. Well, I won't put you in a hole, Mr. Hofstad. Let us say it's that I am the free thinker then. I'm going to prove to you that the People's Messenger leads you by the nose in a shameful manner when it tells you, that the common people, the crowd, the masses, are the real essence of the people. That is only a newspaper lie, I tell you. The common people are nothing more than the raw material of which a people is made. Oh, come on, isn't that?
Are you going to make us out as
well-bred and an ill-bred strain of animal? Do you not think that the poodle's brain is developed to quite a different degree from that of the cur? Yeah, of course it is.
You're going to make out we are dogs now.
We are not animals, Doctor.
Yes, but bless my soul, we are, my friend. It is true that we are the finest animals anyone could wish for, but even among us, exceptionally fine animals are rare. There is a tremendous difference between poodle men and cur men. Mr. Hofstad proclaims in the People's Messenger that it is the barn door hens and street curs that are the finest specimens in the menagerie. But that is always the way, as long as a man retains the traces of common origin and has not worked his way up to intellectual distinction.
I lay no claim to any sort of distinction. I am the son of humble country folk, and I am proud that the stock I come from is rooted deep among the common people he insults.
Bravo. Yes. Bravo.
Found low down in the social scale. They crawl and swarm all around us, even in the highest social positions. I mean, you have only to look at your own fine distinguished mayor. My sister Peter is every bit as plebeian as anyone that walks in 2 shoes. And that, not because she is like myself, descended from some old rascal of a pirate from Pomerania or thereabouts, because that is who we are descended from.
Yes, an absurd legend.
But because she thinks what her superiors think and holds the same opinions as they do. People that are, intellectually speaking, common people, and that is why my magnificent sister Peter is in reality so very far from any distinction, and consequently also so far from being liberal-minded.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask you to...
It is only the distinguished men that are liberal-minded in this country. Well, we are learning something quite new.
And this is part of my new discovery too. And another part of it is that broad-mindedness is almost precisely the same thing as morality. That is why I maintain that it is absolutely inexcusable in the People's Messenger to proclaim day in, day out, the false doctrine that it is the masses, the crowd, the compact majority that have the monopoly of broad-mindedness and morality, and that vice and corruption and every kind of intellectual depravity are the result of culture, just as all the filth that is draining into our baths is the result of the tanneries up at Molladale. And yet, this same People's Messenger can go on preaching that the masses ought to be elevated to higher conditions of life. But if the messenger's teaching is to be depended upon, this very raising up of the masses would mean nothing more or less than setting them straight away upon the paths of depravity. It is ignorance, poverty, ugly conditions of life that do the devil's work. In a house which does not get aired and swept away every day, people will lose the power of thinking or acting in a moral manner. Lack of oxygen weakens the conscience, and there must be a plentiful lack of oxygen in very many houses in this town. I should think, judging from the fact that the whole compact majority can be unconscientious enough to wish to build the town's prosperity on a quagmire of falsehood and deceit.
We cannot allow such a grave accusation to be flung at a citizen community.
I'm
Quite right, yes.
Direct the speaker to sit down.
Then I will go and shout the truth at every street corner. I will write it in the other town's newspapers. The whole country shall know what's going on here.
It almost seemed as if Dr. Stockmann's intention were to ruin the town.
Yes, my native town is so dear to me that I would rather ruin it than see it flourishing upon a lie.
This is really serious.
Oh, come on.
A man must be a public enemy to ruin the whole community.
What does the destruction of a community matter if it lives on in lies, eh? It ought to be razed to the ground, I tell you. You will end by infecting the whole country. You will bring about such a state of things that the whole country will deserve to be ruined. And if things come to that pass, I shall say from the bottom of my heart, let the whole country perish.
Talking about mad. Enemy of the people. An enemy of the people.
The voice of the people.
Hear, hear.
Yes, agree.
The enemy.
Yes, he is an enemy of the people.
Enemy.
He hates his country.
Both as a citizen and as an individual, I'm profoundly disturbed by what we have had to listen to. Dr. Stockmann has shown himself in a light I should never have dreamed of. I am unhappily obliged to subscribe to the opinion which I have just heard my estimable fellow citizens utter, and I propose that we should give expression to that opinion in a resolution. I propose a resolution as follows. This meeting declares that it considers Dr. Thomas Stockmann, medical officer of the Baths, to be an enemy of the people.
Woo. Yes.
A number of men surround the doctor and hiss him. Mrs. Stockmann and Petra have gotten up from their seats. Morton and Iliff are fighting the other schoolboys for hissing. Some of their elders separate them.
Oh, you fools, I tell you that.
We cannot hear you now, Doctor. A formal vote is about to be taken, but out of regard for personal feelings, it shall be by ballot and not verbal. Have you any clean paper, Mr. Miss Billings?
I have both blue and white here.
Ah, well, that will do nicely. We shall get on more quickly that way. Cut it into small strips. That's it. Blue means no, and white means yes. I will come round myself and collect the votes.
Petter Stockmann leaves the hall. Aslaxon and one or two others go round the room with the slips of paper in their hats. I say, what has come to the doctor? What are we to think of him?
Oh, you know how headstrong he is.
Billing, you go to their house. Have you ever noticed if the fellow drinks?
Well, I'm hanged if I know what to say. There are always spirits on the table when you go.
I rather think he goes quite off his head sometimes.
I wonder if there is any madness in his family.
I shouldn't wonder if there were.
No, it's nothing more than sheer malice. He wants to get even with somebody for something or other.
Well, certainly he suggested a rise in his salary on one occasion lately and did not get it.
Ah.
So that's how it is.
I want a blue one, I do. And I want a white one, too.
It's that drunken chap again. Turn him out!
Well, Stockman, do you see what these monkey tricks of yours lead to?
I have done my duty.
What was that you said about the tanneries at Mulladal?
You heard well enough. I said they were the source of all the filth.
My tannery too?
Unfortunately, your tannery is by far the worst.
Are you going to put that in the papers?
I shall conceal nothing.
That may cost you dearly, Stockman.
Goes out. Well, Captain, so you lend your house to enemies of the people?
I imagine I can do what I like with my own possessions, Mr. Vic.
Then you can have no objection to my doing the same with mine.
What do you mean, sir?
You shall hear from me in the morning. Turns his back on him and moves off.
Is that your owner? Oh, sorry.
Was that not your owner, Captain Horster?
Yes. That was Mr. Vic, the ship owner.
Gentlemen, allow me to announce the result by the votes of everyone here except one person.
That's the drunkard.
By the votes of everyone except a tipsy man, this meeting of citizens declares Dr. Thomas Stockmann to be an enemy of the people. 3 cheers for our ancient and honorable citizen community. 3 cheers for our able and energetic mayor who has so loyally suppressed the promptings of family feelings.
Yes.
The meeting is dissolved.
3 cheers for the chairman.
Woo, woo, woo.
3 cheers for Aslaxon.
My hat and coat, Petra. Captain, have you room on your ship for passengers to the new world?
For you and yours, we will make room, Doctor.
Good. Come, Catherine. Come, girls.
Yes, dear, let us go out by the back way.
No back ways for me, Catherine. You will hear more of this enemy of the people. I am not so forgiving as a certain person. I do not say I forgive you, for ye know not what ye do.
That is a blasphemous comparison, Dr. Stockmann.
It is, by God. It's dreadful for an earnest man to listen to.
Threatens us now, does he?
Let's go and break his windows.
Yes.
Fuck him in the fjord.
Here. Blow your horn, Evanson.
Horn-blowing hisses and wild cries, Dr. Stockmann goes out through the hall with his family, Horster elbowing away for them.
Enemy of the people. Enemy of the people.
Enemy of the people.
Enemy of the people.
Enemy of the people.
Enemy of the people.
Act 5. Dr. Stockmann's study. Bookcases and cabinets containing specimens line the walls. At the back is a door leading to the hall. In the right-hand wall are 2 windows, of which all the panes are broken. The doctor's desk, littered with books and papers, stands in the middle of the room, which is in disorder. It is morning. Dr. Stockmann, in a dressing gown and slippers, is bending down and raking with an umbrella under one of the cabinets. After a little while, he rakes out a stone.
Catherine, I found another one.
You will find a lot more yet, I expect.
I shall treasure these stones as relics. Aelif and Morton shall look at them every day, and when they're grown up, they shall inherit them as heirlooms.
Here's a letter for you, Thomas.
Let me see it. Ah, of course.
Who's it from?
From the landlord, notice to quit.
Impossible. Such a nice man.
Does not dare do otherwise, he says. Doesn't like doing it, but dare not do otherwise. on account of his fellow citizens, out of regard for public opinion, is in a dependent position, dares not offend certain influential men.
You see, Thomas?
Yes, yes, I see well enough. A whole lot of them in the town are cowards. Not a man among them dares do anything for fear of the others. But it doesn't matter to us, Catherine. We're going to sail away to the new world, and...
Thomas, are you sure?
Are you suggesting that I should stay here where they've pilloried me as an enemy of the people? Branded me, broken my windows? Just look here, Catherine. They've torn my black trousers too.
Oh dear, and they're the best pair you've got.
You should never wear your best trousers when you go out to fight for freedom and truth.
There's no doubt they have behaved very ill towards you, Thomas. But is that sufficient reason for leaving our native country for good?
If we went to another town, do you suppose we should not find the common people just as insolent as they are here? The worst is that from one end of this country to the other, every man is the slave of his party. Although as far as that goes, I dare say it's not much better in the free West either. The compact majority and liberal public opinion and all that infernal old bag of tricks are probably rampant there too. But there are things are done on a larger scale, you see. They may kill you, but they won't put you to death by slow torture. They don't squeeze a free man's soul in a vice as they do here. And if need be, one can live in solitude. If only I knew where there was a virgin forest or a small South Sea island for sale. Cheap.
But think of the girls, Thomas.
What a strange woman you are, Catherine. Would you prefer to have the girls grow up in a society like this? You saw for yourself last night that half the population are out of their minds, and if the other half have not lost their senses, it's because they're mere brutes with no sense to lose.
But Thomas, the imprudent things you said had something to do with it, you know.
Well, isn't what I said perfectly true? Don't they turn every idea topsy-turvy? Don't they make a regular hodgepodge of right and wrong? Don't they say that the things I know are true are lies? The craziest part of all of it is the fact that these liberals, men of full age going about in crowds imagining that they are a broad-minded party. Did you ever hear anything like it, Catherine?
Yes, it's mad enough of them, certainly, but...
Petra comes in from the sitting room.
Back from school already?
Yes, I've been given notice.
Dismissal?
You too.
Mrs. Busk gave me my notice, so I thought it was best to go at once.
You're perfectly right too.
Who would have thought Mrs. Busk was a woman like that?
Mrs. Busk isn't a woman like that, Mother. I saw quite plainly how it hurt her to do it, but she didn't dare do otherwise.
No, she didn't dare do otherwise either. It's delicious.
Well, after the dreadful scenes last night.
It was not only that. Just listen to this, Father.
Well?
Mrs. Busk showed me no less than 3 letters she received this morning.
Anonymous, I suppose?
Yes.
Yes, because they didn't dare to risk signing their names, Catherine.
And 2 of them were to the effect that a man who has been our guest here was declaring last night at the club that my views on various subjects are extremely emancipated.
You did not deny that, I hope?
No, you know I wouldn't. Mrs. Busk's own views are tolerably emancipated when we are alone together, but now that this report about me is being spread, she dare not keep me on any longer.
Someone who has been a guest of ours. That shows you the return you get for your hospitality, Thomas.
Well, we won't live in such a disgusting hole any longer. Pack up as quickly as you can, Catherine. The sooner we get away, the better.
Be quiet. I think I hear someone in the hall. See who it is, Petra.
Oh, it's you, Captain Horster. Do come in.
Good morning. I thought I would just come in and see how you were.
Thanks. That's very kind of you.
And thank you too for helping us through the crowd.
Yes, how did you manage to get home again?
Oh, somehow or other. I'm fairly strong. And there's more sound than fury about these folk.
Yes, isn't their swinish cowardice astonishing? Look here, I'll show you something. These are all the stones that have been thrown through my window. Just look at them. I'm hanged if there are more than 2 decently large bits of hard stone in the whole heap. The rest nothing but gravel. Wretched little things. And yet they stood out there bawling and swearing that they would do me some violence. But as for doing anything, well, you don't see much of anything in this town.
Just as well for you this time, Doctor.
True enough, but it makes one angry all the same. Because if someday it should be a question of a national fight, in real earnest, you will see that the compact majority will turn tail like a flock of sheep. That is what's so mournful to think of. It gives me so much concern that, oh no, devil take it, it's ridiculous to care about it. They've called me an enemy of the people, so an enemy of the people let me be.
We'll never be that, Thomas.
Don't swear to that, Catherine. To be called an ugly name may be the same, have the same effect as a pin scratch in the lung. And that hateful name, I can't get quit of it. It's sticking here in the pit of my stomach, eating into me like a corrosive acid, and no magnesia will remove it.
You'd only laugh at them, Father.
They will change their minds someday, Doctor.
Yes, Thomas, as sure as you are standing here.
Perhaps when it's too late. Much good may it do them. They may wallow in their filth then and rue the day when they drove a patriot into exile. When do you sail, Captain Horster?
That was what I'd come to speak about.
Why? Has anything gone wrong with the ship?
No. But what has happened is that I'm not to sail in it.
Do you mean that you've been dismissed from your command?
Yes, that's just it.
You too.
See, Thomas?
That for the truth's sake. Oh, if I only had such a thing possible.
You mustn't take it to heart. I shall be sure to find a job with some ship owner or other elsewhere.
And that is this man Vic, a wealthy man, independent of everyone and everything. Shame on him.
He is quite an excellent fellow otherwise. He told me himself he would willingly have kept me on if only he dared.
But he didn't dare? No, of course not.
It's not such an easy matter, he said, for a party man.
A worthy man spoke the truth. A party is like a sausage machine. It mashes up all sorts of heads together into the same mincemeat. Fat heads, block heads, all in one mash.
Come, Thomas, dear.
If only you'd not come home with us, things might not have come to this pass.
I do not regret it.
Thank you.
And so what I came to say was that if you were determined to go away, I've thought of another plan.
That's splendid. Well, if only we can get away at once.
Wasn't that someone knocking?
That's Peter, surely.
Aha. Come in!
You, Thomas, promise me.
Oh, you are engaged.
No, come in.
But I want to speak to you alone.
We will go into the sitting room in the meanwhile.
Oh.
And I will look in again later.
No, go in there with them, Captain. I want to hear more.
I will wait.
I dare say you find it rather draughty here today.
I think I caught cold last night. I stood and shivered.
Really, I found it warm enough.
I regret that it was not in my power to prevent those excesses last night.
Have you anything in particular to say to me besides that?
I have this document for you from the Baths Committee.
Oh, my dismissal.
Yes, dating from today. It gives us pain to do it, but to speak frankly, we dared not do otherwise on account of public opinion.
Dared not? I seem to have heard that word before today.
I must beg you to understand your position clearly. For the future, you must not count on any practice whatever in the town.
Devil take the practice. Why are you so sure of that?
The Householders Association is circulating lists from house to house. All right-minded citizens are being called upon to give up employing you, and I can assure you that not a single head of a family will risk refusing his signature. They simply dare not.
No, I don't doubt it. But what then?
If I might advise you, it would be best to leave the place for a little while.
Yes, leaving the place has occurred to me.
Good. And then when you have had 6 months to think things over, if after mature consideration, you can persuade yourself to write a few lists of regret, acknowledge your error.
I might have my appointment restored Me.
Tony DeSantis, why is your name up there?
Just pause for 1 second. I'm just gonna put people on mute.
I put Kathy. COVID.
Hang on 1 second, guys. Are they off now? Yes.
Yeah, I might have my appointment restored to me, do you mean?
Perhaps. It is not at all impossible.
But what about public opinion then? Surely you would not dare to do it on account of public feeling.
Public opinion is an extremely mutable thing. And to be quite candid with you, it is a matter of great importance to us to have some admission of that sort from you in writing.
Oh, that's what you're after, is it? I'll just trouble you to remember what I said to you lately about foxy tricks of that sort.
Your position was quite different then. At that time, you had reason to suppose you had the whole town at your back.
Yes, and now I feel I have the whole town on my back. I would not do it if I had the devil and his dam on my back. Never! Never, I tell you.
A man with a family has no right to behave as you do. You have no right to do it, Thomas.
I have no right. There is only one single thing in the world as a free man has no right to do. Do you know what that is?
No.
Of course you don't. A free man has no right to soil himself with filth. He has no right to behave in a way that would justify his spitting in his own face.
This sort of thing sounds extremely plausible, of course, and if there were no other explanation for your obstinacy, but as it happens, there is.
What do you mean?
You understand very well what I mean, but as your brother, as your sister, and as a woman of discretion, I advise you to not build too much upon expectations and prospects that may so very easily fail.
What in the world is this all about?
Do you really ask me to believe that you are ignorant of the terms of Mr. Keeler's will?
I know that the small amount he possesses is to go to an institution for indigent old work people. How does that concern me?
In the first place, it is by no means a small amount that is in question. Mr. Keel is a very wealthy man.
I had no notion of that.
Hadn't you really? Then I suppose you had no notion either that a considerable portion of his wealth will come to your children, you and your wife having a life rent of the capital. Well, has he never told you so?
Never, on my honor. Quite the reverse. He's constantly done nothing but fume at being so unconscionably heavily taxed. But are you perfectly certain of this, Peter?
I have it from an absolutely reliable source.
Then thank God Catherine is provided for, and the children too. I must tell her this at once. Catherine! Catherine!
Don't say a word yet.
What's the matter?
No, nothing. Nothing. Provided for, just think of it. We're all provided for, and for life. What a blessed feeling it is to know one is provided for.
Yes, but that is just exactly what you are not. Mr. Keel can alter his will any day he likes.
But he won't do that, my dear Peter. The badger is much too delighted at my attack on you and your wise friends.
That throws a light on various things.
What things?
I see that the whole thing was a combined maneuver on your part and his. These violent, reckless attacks that you have made against the leading men and women of the town under the pretense that it was in the name of truth.
What about them?
I see that they were nothing else than the stipulated price for that vindictive old man's will.
Peter, you are the most disgusting plebeian I have ever met in all my life.
All is over between us. Your dismissal is irrevocable. We have a weapon against you now.
For shame. For shame! Catherine, you must have the floor scrubbed after her.
Hush, Thomas, be quiet.
Father, grandfather is here asking if he may speak to you alone.
Certainly he may. Come in, Mr. Keel. What can I do for you? Won't you sit down?
I won't sit. You look very comfortable here today, Thomas.
Yes, don't we?
Very comfortable. Plenty of fresh air. I should think you've got enough today of that oxygen you were talking about yesterday. Your conscience must be in splendid order today, I should think.
It is.
So I should think. Do you know what I've got here?
Good conscience too, I hope.
No, it is something better than that.
He takes a thick pocketbook from his breast pocket, opens it, and displays a packet of papers.
Shares in the bards.
They're not difficult to get today.
And you've been buying?
As many as I could pay for.
But my dear Mr. Keel, consider the state of the bard's affairs.
If you behave like a reasonable man, you can soon set the Baths on their feet again.
Well, you can see for yourself that I've done all I can, but they're all mad in this town.
You said yesterday that the worst of this pollution came from my tannery. If that is true, then my grandfather and my father before me, and I myself for many years past, have been poisoning the town like 3 destroying angels. Do you think I'm going to sit quiet under that reproach?
Unfortunately, I'm afraid you'll have to.
No, thank you. I am jealous of my name and reputation. They call me the Badger, I am told. Badger is a kind of pig, I believe. But I'm not going to give them the right to call me that. I mean to live and die a clean man.
And how are you going to set about that?
You shall cleanse me, Thomas.
I?
Do you know what money I have bought these shares with? No, of course you can't know. But I will tell you. It is the money that Catherine and Petra and the girls will have when I am gone. Because I've been able to save a little bit after all, you know.
And you have gone and taken Catherine's money? For this?
Yes. The whole of the money is invested in the Baths now. And now I just want to see whether you are quite stark, staring mad, Thomas. If you still make out that these animals and other nasty things of that sort came from my tannery, it will be exactly as if you were to flay broad strips of skin from Catherine's body and Petra's and the girls. And no decent man would do that unless he were mad.
Yes, but I am mad. I am.
You cannot be so absurdly mad as all that when it is a question of your wife and children.
Why couldn't you consult me about it before you went and brought all that trash?
What is done cannot be undone.
If only I were not so certain about it, but I am absolutely convinced that I am right.
If you stick to your mad idea, this won't be worth much, you know.
Oh, but hang it all, it might be possible for science to discover some prophylactic, I should think, or some antidote of some kind.
To kill these animals, do you mean?
Yes, or to make them innocuous.
Couldn't you try some rat's bane?
Well, don't talk nonsense. They all say it's only imagination, you know. Well, let it get at that. Let them have their own way about it. Haven't the ignorant, narrow-minded curs reviled me as an enemy of the people? And haven't they been ready to tear the clothes off my back too?
And broken all your windows to pieces?
And then there's the duty to my family. I must talk it over with Catherine. She's great on those things.
That is right. Be guided by a reasonable woman's advice.
Oh, to think you could do such a preposterous thing, risking Catherine's money in this way and putting me in such a horribly painful dilemma. When I look at you, I think I see the devil himself.
Oh, then I had better go. But I must have an answer from you before 2 o'clock. Yes or no? If it is no, the shares go to a charity.
What does Catherine get?
Nothing.
The door leading to the hall opens and Hofstad and Aslaxon make their appearance.
Look at these two.
What the devil? Have you actually the face to come into my house?
Certainly.
We have something to say, you see.
Yes or no, before 2 o'clock.
Well, what do you want with me? Be brief.
I can quite understand that you are annoyed with us for our attitude at the meeting yesterday.
Attitude, do you call it? Yes, it was a charming attitude. I call it weak, damnably shameful.
Call it what you like. We could not do otherwise.
Dared not do otherwise, isn't that it?
Well, if you put it that way.
But why did you not let us have a word beforehand? Just a hint to Mr. Hofstad Or to me?
A hint of what?
Huh. And what was behind it all?
I don't understand you in the least.
Oh, yes, you do, Dr. Stockmann.
It is no good making a mystery of it.
What the devil do you both mean?
Well, may I ask why your father-in-law is not, is he not going around the town buying all the shares to the baths?
Yes, he has been buying Bath's shares today, but...
It would have been more prudent to get someone else to do it, someone less related to you.
And you should not have let your name appear in the affair. There was no need for anyone to know that the attack on the baths came from you. You ought to have consulted me, Dr. Stockmann.
Are such things conceivable?
Well,
are such things possible?
Evidently, they are. But it is better to use a little finesse, you know?
And it is much better to have several persons in a thing of that sort, because the responsibility of each individual is lessened when there are others with him.
Come to the point, gentlemen. What do you want?
Perhaps Mr. Hofstad better.
No, you tell him, Eslaxon.
Well, the fact is, now we know the bearings of the whole affair, we think we might venture to put the People's Messenger at your disposal.
Do you dare do that now? What about public opinion? Are you not afraid of a storm breaking upon our heads?
We will try to weather it.
Yeah, and you must be ready to go off quickly on a new tack, Doctor.
I mean, my father-in-law and I have got hold of the shares at a low figure.
Your reasons for wishing to get the control of the baths are mainly scientific, I take it?
Of course. It was for scientific reasons that I persuaded the old badger to stand in with me in the matter. So we will tinker at the conduit pipes a little and dig up a little bit of the shore in it, and it shan't cost the town a sixpence. That'll be all right, eh?
I think so, if you have the People's Messenger behind you.
This is a power in a free community, Doctor.
Quite so. And so is public opinion. And you, Mr. Aslaxon, I suppose you will be answerable for the Householders Association.
Yes, I am the Temperance Society. You may rely on that.
But, gentlemen, I really am ashamed to ask the question, but what return to you?
We should prefer to help you without any return whatever, believe me. But the People's Messenger is in a rather shaky condition. It doesn't go really well, and I should be very unwilling to suspend the paper now when there is so much work to do here in the political way.
Quite so. That would be a great trial to such a friend of the people as you are. But I am an enemy of the people, remember? Where have I put my stick? Where is the devil is my stick?
What's that?
You don't mean to...
And suppose I don't give you a single penny of all I get out of it. Money's not very easy to get out of us rich folk, remember?
And you please to remember this affair of the shares can be represented in two ways.
Yes, and you are just the man to do it. If I don't come to the rescue of the People's Messenger, you will certainly take an evil view of the affair. You will hunt me down, I can well imagine.
It is a natural law. Every animal must fight for its own livelihood.
And get its food where it can, you know.
Yeah, then you go and look for yours in the gutter, because I'm going to show you which is the strongest animal of us three.
You are surely not going to use violence.
Take care what you're doing with that umbrella.
Out of the window with you, Mr. Hofstad.
Are you quite mad?
Out of the window, Mr. Aslaxon. Jump. I tell you, you will have to do it sooner or later.
Moderation, Doctor. I'm a delicate man. I can stand so little. Help! Help!
Mrs. Stockmann, Petra, and Horster come in from the sitting room.
Gracious Thomas, what's happening?
Jump out, I tell you, out into the gutter.
An assault on an unoffending man. I call you to witness, Captain Horster. Witness!
If only I knew the way out of here.
Control yourself, Thomas.
Upon my soul, they have escaped after all.
What do they want you to do?
I'll tell you later on. I have something else to think about now. Look there, Catherine, what is written there?
3 big no's. What does that mean?
I will tell you that too later on. There, Petra, tell the maid to run over to the badgers with that as quickly as she can. Hurry up! Well, I think I've had a visit from every one of the devil's messengers today, but now I'm going to sharpen my pen till they can feel its point. I shall dip it in venom and gall. I shall hurl my inkpot at their heads.
Yes, but we are going away, you know, Thomas.
Well?
Yes, she's gone with it.
Good. Going away, did you say? No, I'll be hanged if we are. We are going to stay where we are, Catherine.
Stay here.
Here in the town?
Yes, here. This is the field of the battle. This is where the fight will be. This is where I shall triumph. As soon as I've had my trousers sewn up, I shall go out and look for another house. We must have a roof over our heads for the winter.
That you shall have in my house.
Can I?
Yes, quite well. I've plenty of room, and I'm almost never at home.
How good of you, Captain.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. That is one trouble over. Now I can set to work in earnest at once. There's an endless amount of things to look through here, Catherine. Luckily, I shall have my time at my disposal because I have been dismissed from the baths, you know.
Oh, yes, I expected that.
And they want to take my practice away from me too. Let them! I have got the poor people to fall back upon anyway. Those that don't pay anything, and after all, they need me most too. But by Jove, they will have to listen to me. I shall preach to them.
But dear Thomas, I should have thought events had showed you what use it is to preach.
What I want to do is so simple and clear and straightforward. I only want to drum into the heads of these curs the fact that the liberals are the enemies of freedom and that they will end by making life here unbearable. Don't you think, Captain Halster, that I ought to be able to make people understand that?
Very likely. I don't know much about such things myself.
Well, look here, I'll explain. It is the party leaders that must be exterminated. A party leader is like a wolf, you see, like a voracious wolf. He requires a certain number of smaller victims to prey upon every year if he is to live. I just look at Hofstad and Alaxon. Yeah? How many smaller victims have they not put an end to, or at any rate maimed and mangled until they're fit for nothing except to be householders or subscribers to the People's Messenger? Come here, Catherine. Look how beautifully the sun shines today and this lovely spring air that I'm drinking in.
Yes, if only we could live on sunshine and spring air.
Oh, you'll have to pinch and save a bit. That gives me a very little concern. What is much worse is that I know of no one who is liberal-minded and high-minded enough to venture to take up my work after me.
Don't think about that, Father. You have plenty of time before you. Well, hello. Here are the girls already.
Iliff and Morton come in from the sitting room.
Have you got a holiday?
No, but we were fighting with the other boys between lessons.
That isn't true. It was the other boys were fighting with us.
Well, and then Mr. Rowland said we had better stay home for a day or two.
I have it! I have it, by Jove! You shall never set foot in the school again.
No more school!
Never, I say. I will educate you myself. That is to say, you shan't learn a blessed thing. But I will make liberal-minded and high-minded girls of you. You must help me with that, Petra.
Yes, Father, you may sure I will.
And my school shall be in the room where they insulted me and called me an enemy of the people. But we are too few as we are. I must have at least 12 children to begin with.
You'll certainly never get them in this town.
Oh, we shall. Don't you know any street urchins, regular ragamuffins?
Yes, Father, I know lots.
That's capital. Bring me some of them. There may be some exceptional heads among them.
Oh, and what are we going to do when you have made us liberal-minded and high-minded women of us?
Then you shall drive all the wolves out of the country.
Hooray!
Let us hope it will be the wolves that will drive you out of the country, Thomas.
You out of your mind, Catherine? Drive me out now, while I'm the strongest man in the town?
Strongest now?
Yes, and I will go so far as to say that now I am the strongest man in the world.
I say.
Hush. You mustn't say anything about it yet. But I have made a great discovery.
Another one.
Yes. It is this. Let me tell you that the strongest man in the world is he who stands alone.
Oh, Thomas. Thomas.
Father.
End of play.
Wow. End of play.
Well done.
Well done, everybody.
And thank you, Anna, for putting all of this together.
My pleasure.
Fabulous, fabulous job. Wonderful acting.
Yeah.
It was really terrific.
Incredible. Thank you, Ellen. Ellen's our collaborator. We've been collaborating together on this, and she runs something called Backlane Studios in Toronto, which is an incredible community hub. And we are going to be doing more of these readings over quarantine, so please come back and tune in. You can find more information on Backlane Studios. I'll put it in the notes, and at Untold Stories High, which is on Instagram. Yeah, we'll be doing more readings, and you'll be hearing from us. And thank you to everyone who's donated money to both charities. That really means a lot, and it means a lot to those charities right now who are really struggling. So thank you so much for contributing that, and thank you, actors. You're so wonderful. You're so brilliant.
Oh, they're terrific.
Hello, audience. Lovely people all around the world.
Well done. I better run.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for organizing this. It's been a mission for you guys, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Lovely to meet everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Such a pleasure, Peter.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Peter, you're terrific.
Next time.
And remember, exterminate the leaders.
That's right.
Capital.
People. Not sure.
Yeah, feel free to stick around a bit if you want to have a chat about anything. I'm on here for a few more minutes, but please also leave if you have to. Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Does anyone need to turn a camera back on? Maybe.
Oh, hello, Kate. There's cool. Hi, cool.
Well done. That was fantastic, folks.
Yeah, it was just amazing reading. I want to know what happens in the next play. What happened, or I should say, Act 6.
I think
Who is this? When everything goes wrong.
I feel like this play could be the origin story of the Joker or of some other supervillain.
Yeah. Totally.
He starts off as a good man and then is just driven to the edge.
Yeah. And if you read the original, the speeches, he gets even wilder in the town hall, and they are so outraged with him. So we took out some parts because they were almost too outrageous, maybe. But
well,
anyway, it's a really fantastic play, and there's lots of different versions of it if you're interested in finding them. Yeah, and I think a great one to adapt. I think it's been adapted at different theatres for different times of history, and yeah, very relevant.
One of the most interesting is probably an adaptation for Flint, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
where
yeah.
the theme would have been really close to home.
Yeah, the water supply is there, wasn't it? Yeah.
But it is so amazing that this was written in 1882, and but on a lot of the things that Anna took out verged on eugenics, which were very common then. When he was, you got a little taste of it when he was talking about the poodle versus the cur, and the sort of evolutionary thing. So it was a play of its time, and yet it's a play of today. And I was thinking, especially at the end when it was the conspiracy theories and, the conspiracy being used against Thomas. It was just, it's just happens every day here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not here so much as south of the border.
In the world.
In the world, yeah.
Yes, definitely south of the border.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did sort of reel that stuff back in, like he was going on about the poodles and the cur, but then he says, no, they can be found all among you. You can't tell by the social classes. It's more of the mental disposition and the thoughts that separate.
Yeah, and that certainly was in yeah, Ibsen's play. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, he did moderate it a bit.
I love the cat in your view, Carly.
This guy?
Oh.
Oh.
Oh, exactly.
Oh, good heavens.
Yeah, he's the sweetest guy. He loves when I'm learning Spanish when I'm down here. I'm doing a reading or I'm doing my Spanish. He comes and sits behind me and falls asleep. The sound of un gato naranja silla sobre la silla. He just loves me. Falls asleep.
That's Spanish.
I would just like to take a moment. I would like to thank everybody and thank you, Alan. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. I have to bow out now, but I will do more. I would be really interested. So thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for dropping in, Pia.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you again.
Bye, Carly.
Bye, Carly.
So long, everyone. I'm going to head
Good
out.
job.
Bye,
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Love to. Lovely to see you all in America and Berlin. Wonderful.
David.
Bye.
Incredible.
Bye.
That's incredible.
Such a great joy to see
it.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Lovely. And
Needed.
All right.
And wonderful to hear your voice. It's just a wonderful, and to see you in this doing the reading. It was just a treat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everyone, wherever you are.
Thank you so much.
Please come to the next one. We'll let you know when that is. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.